Hello and welcome to the Inforunners. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host for the Inforunners today. And joining me is, of course, Old Man Al. Al, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and welcome to the Hurston Educational Institute. And today we're looking for teachers' pets.
Yes, we are. We are both in some state of preparedness for school coming back. So we're both very.
Well, we're back.
And I'm coming back in like 2 weeks. So, like
we were back. I was teaching this week. So last week I was at staffing services and that type of thing. So, and the Friday was the day I couldn't get out of. We had the compliance and all the legal stuff we had to do. So, as I'm sure you get as well.
Yep. That's got to get a start in 2 weeks for that one. But I am.
Oh joy!
I am definitely looking forward to it, mostly because the issue is more that I'm trying to find the right. Where are you? Yeah, I'm finding it. For me, it's the first year that I actually get to teach the classes that I want to teach and nothing else. So I'm like, yes.
That's one of those things that teachers a rarity for teachers.
Yes. For those who don't know, often teachers are shuffled around these days. Gone are the bygone days of a teacher being able to teach one subject for like 30 years and be okay with it. Now everything is different. But today is a good day. It's a big day because it's the ISC is coming back. So we may actually see ISC. Well, so I was looking at today.
It is. Yes, you'll see ISC before that other fellow who does it, the AstroPub.
Before yes, you will.
Oh, hang on. That's the apparently the 6 o'clock alarm going off saying it's time to start.
It's time to start streaming. Well, it's time to start streaming.
There you go. So we're ahead of time.
There we go. Let's see if I got everything else up.
So.
Yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. We don't have the bot up, so we can't at least answer it. But
and have we got Twitch up at all, or
no, we don't have Twitch. Right now. I can start Twitch if you want, but it won't. I can't change the title.
Yeah,
it might. So.
Yeah, so
I'll just start it. You can just go for it. There we go.
We can start it and at least say, hey, sorry guys.
I mean, it should be up right now. So, hello everyone from Twitch if you're watching this.
Yes, we can't change the title.
Yes, so this is still the golden age of it'll perpetually be the golden age of Inforunners on Twitch until X gets back.
The law masters rule. and today the law masters are in Hurston Educational Institute, looking for teachers' pets.
Yes.
So yeah.
We actually did get some updates from lore because this was the big.
The big law Galactopedia update.
Yes, and we got the Cosmos Sloop got an update. Unfortunately, all the ships are the same. All of them have had lore before. It's just more of a kind of expansion. But we did get some. Go ahead.
I thought I saw an update in between periods of as I was browsing, as you try to do to get your mind back, of an update on the TV show. So there was one, I think, on a couple of the inverse shows. I think there was an update on those in lore, but
there may have been. I didn't see it.
I'm happy to be corrected. I'm happy to be corrected by someone if I'm in error. Maybe dreamt it.
I didn't see all of it. The only thing that stood out to me was the rebellious Xian, the Xian woman who was like, I don't want to be a bureaucrat. I want to be a star pilot and explorer. So when she did her mandatory service in the military, she ended up joining the Scouts and was actually discovered a jump point. But that jump point led straight to a UNE base and made the Cold War worse. So she's like, no, Dad, I don't want to do paperwork. I want to be a pilot. And then just pilots right into human space, making the Cold War worse. Yeah, great.
If you'd had her diplomatic skills, she could have maybe brokered a peace. Or
yeah.
So yes, the joys of lore.
Yeah.
Like the beauty of it is it is so deep. There are so many little rabbit holes and little nippets and I know Dave Haddock when we had him on with the channel where we're talking, he was saying, they deliberately paint with a 12-inch paintbrush and leave themselves plenty of room to maneuver and go. So they'll just put breadcrumbs which someone else can chase and run down as they're developing the game or developing a ship or stuff. So but lots of
you also were right that the big article, because every time they do these articles on for the updates, they do one big article, and this article, they did a big article on SSN/CATV, which is the big channel on Spectrum. For those who don't realize, Spectrum is actually a lore show.
Like
an in-game show. It's like an in-game internet version of the internet. But yeah, so it's nice to see some of these details coming up, because the other thing that's important for those who follow the monthly reports is that they're starting to integrate Galactipedia into Squadron 42. So it means if they're already integrating it into Squadron 42, they'll integrate it into Star Citizen soon enough. So
it'd be nice. I'd like to see things like I really hope we'll get things where we'll get instead of say Dooley giving us news or telling us about missions, we'll get Galactic Report popping up and giving us those, breaking news, that type of thing.
Info, especially that'd be a great way of announcing events. Like the gang Xeno threat has arrived in the Stanton system. The local authorities have asked for all active CDF members to respond, as a way of like, you're on the other side of another system, you can just go there. So
we'll keep you updated with more reports in Spectrum or in Galactic Report. Stay tuned. Because you could see reporters doing that. So that'd be something I'd like to see happen down the track. I'm sure it will, but we're just patience.
Yep.
Stop being a Veronica.
It's the darkness before the dawn. This is one of those things that y'all got to understand, is that July is bad. It's bad for Star Citizen. It's bad for video games in general. It's bad for content. I've been following a couple shows that started their broadcast recently in the last couple of weeks. And I've been seeing people in that community freak out because they're like, no one's talking about the show. It's season 2 of the show. And like, no one's talking about the show, which means it's not going to get renewed for a 3rd season. And I'm like, it's July. They're like, but no one is talking about it on YouTube. Like, nobody talks about anything on YouTube in July because it's the worst revenue time next to January.
Americans, as you said last time, Americans are touching grass.
Exactly.
Australians, we're rugged up, but everyone else is touching grass.
Hey, Clareman. Hey, Noob. How you doing, buddy?
And hello, Loud Guns. And Shinobi Trip. And Midgards. Great to see you guys. Yes, John, we are aware that this week's ISC is apparently about munching.
Yes.
So that's something to look forward to.
It's definitely one of those things that we need to keep in context as well, because like they say it's an early prototype, which means that it's probably not going to be coming in the next 6 months, but it does mean that we're likely going to see it shortly after that.
It's not going to be in 320, is what we're saying. And when it comes out, it will be buggy because new things are. And expect that when it comes out, it may even break one or two things, and they will need repairing because that's the nature of coding. You add something in, it looks good. You look at it, and it looks good, but you go down the rabbit hole a little bit, or you go down a bit, and you find, it's broken something else. And so, I can also remember Mark Abent talking about a bug once, and it was one number in a line of code that was causing the bug. So tracking that down was a nightmare. It was that type of thing, and sometimes it happens. So.
Trying to see what I got.
Do we have any questions? Let's have a look.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free. Apparently, there's also the roadmap roundup happened as well, which I'd forgotten about. I'd forgotten that was a thing.
That's right. And and I did see that the A1 has been confirmed as being the first Spirit ship that's out or will be coming.
Yes, but it's a 320.x release, so.
Yeah, that'll be sometime in 320, but not necessarily right at the initial release. I did see, much to my angst, the complaint by someone that Batman's Crusader have 5 combat ships, but their port facilities just look like logistics, and everything about them seems logistics. And as I was saying before the show, that is one of my pet peeves. It's what cheeses me off.
Yes, it is. Al and I and several other people who follow the lore are very pissed off about it because it's one of those situations where the rule of cool outruled the established lore,
And
so
and it was just, and I think you'd agree. It was really just because Crusader were the flavor of the month when they first
it's because the
started to
developers
go down that line.
Yeah, the ship makers wanted to make Crusader ships because they were cool and they were hot, and so they made Crusader ships. I know that a lot of people have this like deep like question about like, oh, so they're trying to balance this out with this, and they're trying. No, CIG doesn't do that. CIG makes ships because they're cool. That's the only rule that they work off of. And if they can impress Chris Roberts, then Chris Roberts will okay it. Like there's literally no rhyme or reason to CIG producing ships other than, is it cool and does it add something to the game that we don't already have?
Does it look good?
Yeah.
Does it look good? Is it cool? Can we get it in game? Does it fit? You know? And I think at the bottom of that is sometimes the law of the factories, because you can always change that law. And we were postulating possible reasons why Crusader have bastardized their heritage and gone away from that humanitarian aspect. Like even in lore at the moment, most of Crusader's profits still go to humanitarian things. And so you've got this company that's pouring millions and billions of UE credits into humanitarian aspects, yet having weapons of mass destruction to destroy the very places they're rebuilding.
We're a humanitarian company, has 2 dedicated bomber variants. We will bomb them into submission through charity work.
The A1 and the A2. Yeah. So, it's and yeah, we're a humanitarian company, but hey, we've got this awesome fighter. It does, we got big guns.
It's designed to shoot down capital ships and large ships, and 2 bombers and a drop ship, like a combat drop ship.
But no, we're not military. No, we're humanitarian. So for us, it's a great struggle. But I know we were talking the whole possible how they're shifting that, and so you had the idea that the current CEO has gone, no, we're going to the military contracts are much more lucrative, so we're going to go going down that line. My thought was even they've bought Stanton, or they've bought Crusader in Stanton, and they thought, yeah, we'll be happy, and I kind of think this kind of ties in with what Dave Haddock said about Crusader. We're a lovely company, people love working for them, but they just can't govern.
Yeah.
And so they've got into Crusader, or got into, and Ninetales have turned up and they're going, oh crap. How are we going to do it? We'll build a ship. We'll try and build ships to combat them, and so that's why they're shifting in that way. But there is that sense where there's no real reason or understood reason at present why they've shifted that so far from their law and their heritage. So yeah.
Newfire says, I like the segment you did with Soul Citizens about historically what ATV was like compared to ISC. 45 minutes of information versus what we get lately, Paul. I mean, I'm very quite honest that I think that 45 minutes of information wasn't. I know people are like, whoa, it was really good. It's like, it was garbage. It was just all talk. It was them talking about stuff. It wasn't them doing anything. 45 minutes of ISE was usually like 6 or 7 shows, of which 3 of them were decent, and they were mostly just, this is what we're planning on doing, and here's this slideshow of what we're planning on doing. Like, you rarely got to see any details from it, versus what we see now, which is mostly what's going on. Sometimes it's a little bit late, but
Yeah, I think the longer shows add elements where you saw there was a bit more personality, or a bit more personable. So it was, in some ways, it was very hard to see the difference between an ISC show and, say, the old lunchtime show, because of just you were getting that personal relationship, but you get snippets behind what they were doing or what they were planning. Nowadays, we tend to only see what they're working on as they're kind of bringing it up to release, rather than this is what we're hoping to do. We're getting things like, planet, pupil to planet, where we're going, hey, this is what we have done. So I'd like more. I'd all like more, but it also takes time. It takes time to produce those super long shows. And, if you get one of your coders pulled out for every 45-minute show you do, that's not just 45 minutes that they do that. That's probably
a couple hours
3 hours
minimum. Yeah.
Where they've got to do the prep and they've got to do the other stuff, and they're away from that. That's away from coding, or away from that job that they want to get done. So,
I mean, think about how often when we get together as a whole Inforunners crew, where it's like 4 or 5 of us plus a bunch of community members, and we sit down on a very, very important topic, and we can sometimes spend like 8 hours discussing one topic to kind of refine the idea before we do a video.
Yeah. Well, there was that one. There was that one episode UX and I did, and it was oh, that was long.
It was a long one, but like, imagine even doing half of that, something that was half that long, with I'm trying to say, just imagine doing something like that, half that long, but like every week, and that's basically what those guys are doing. So,
well, even look at today.
Yeah.
Did we start at 6 o'clock? Like, we started the stream at 6 o'clock. But what time did we start? We started about 5:30. Just to do the setup, and that was rushed setup.
Yeah. Yeah. So I imagine that they're taking them a little bit longer. But yeah, as Nubifar was talking about, like, it was a different feeling. I think it was a difference between a small, intimate company of maybe 100 people versus, a company of 1,100.
Like, spread over
2 continents.
Three continents and 3 countries, and that changes things, So yeah.
And I was gonna say, I personally like what they do now, because generally speaking, when they're doing ISC, they're showing off content that's actually being worked on and stuff you can actually see. So it's got a little bit better stuff. So,
and I know people don't like the content always, and it's not always to your liking. And hey, it was like the old shows, Bug Smashers was never to my liking, because I'm not a coder. It didn't make sense, but I still liked watching Bug Smashers because I could see. It helped me understand the problems they were having, or just how difficult it was at times, So, but 9 times out of 10, it was like washing over my head, So, but yeah. Just seeing if we've got any other questions. So, question from Switchblades says, "Do you guys think that they should bring back Pillar Talk?"
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
But it should, they used to do them quarterly, and we should see them quarterly. But
I thought it was going to be an annual. The Pillar Talk was supposed to be annually, but annually, we should have that update of where we're going and what the pillars are. And thank you, John Mortimer, to Basic Membership.
Yeah,
awesome to have you along for the YouTube ride.
Thank you so much for that.
Don't forget. I also see there's another one from Gold Stripes.
Mm-hmm.
Gold Stripes says, "What kind of other mines do you think the Nautilus could deploy, such as potentially quantum interdicting mines?" Question.
Yeah, you can see that. I mean, that's something that that I think that's done by Eve. They have something similar to that. But yeah, there's lots of different mines. There's the quantum interdiction mines. You could do disable mines, so mines that don't explode, but like EMP mines, effectively, something that like disable. That's a cool thing. So what do you think?
EMP pulse mines. I know we've got the defense platform mines. I know we've got the exploding mines. Do you know, for those, did you know, Paul, that one of Crusader's main industries is defense platforms?
Oh, I figured that was Hurston, but yeah, it makes sense.
Sorry, not Crusader, Hurston. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hurston.
Yeah.
Oh man, old man's going to be after my head now.
Yeah, that's literally what they got started on. They got started on doing big laser turrets for platforms. Before we go through again, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube, especially if you're watching this after the fact. It helps us out a lot. We'd love to see you come back for our more regular videos and our regular live streams. We'll be doing this with Al. Al and I will be doing this week. Maybe not like next week. Maybe next week, because I think next week's my last week before I have to go back. So you'll be able to see some of this for that.
So we'll see.
Nova on YouTube asks, the Freelancer has a top airlock. When it gets a rework, do you think the airlock will they'll lose the airlock completely, or will it have it replace of a door like the whole A?
Can you read that question again? I got distracted because I was looking at YouTube and I couldn't see the question.
So the question is effectively, the Freelancer has that top airlock in that middle section.
Yep.
When they get to rework, do you think that's going to be removed or like replaced with an actual like door on the sides of it?
I think they'll replace the top one, and they seem to be trying to get rid of all the top-down airlocks just because it's hard for NPCs to navigate. I'd love to see. I'm sure you remember it, the old ramp for the
front lamp
for Freelancers.
Yeah,
that went into that section. I love that, the staircase that went into that. That was awesome. But it also took up a lot of space, and you effectively lost that cargo area because the ramp was there. But I did used to like that ramp, that access.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I think the whole of the interior of the Freelancer is going to get a rework. Or we're going to have to get a rework because that middle section doesn't make a lot of sense. Because it's like right now it's set off as like a airlock because of the top airlock, but it's also a cargo bay, and it's like, how do you get cargo in there? The door's not big enough.
And I think the original idea of a ramp kind of worked for getting cargo in. Although the airlock cargo, I remember that years ago they talked about how they had made the airlock so they could at least get one SCU boxes through. So they made it, so they were standardized so you could at least get cargo in. But I also got the idea that kind of midsection cargo area on a Freelancer was kind of almost a secure shielded area. It was almost a security, better protection against scanning. So it was a bit more robust in that sense. But is it really needed for that ship? Probably not. It's a bit like it doesn't really need four crew. It really is I think it really is a two-man ship.
Yeah. I don't think it needs the 4.
With 4 crew, I think if I'm looking at a Freelancer, I've always seen the Freelancer as being more a Cutlass competitor, or rival, which means you'd expect it to have two crew, but 4 crew makes it kind of more a Connie competitor, and it just doesn't feel like a Connie competitor. It feels too small for that.
Yeah, I mean it's the worst interior next to the Connie. Like it and the Connie are the last real big mistakes of the interior. I'd say the Avenger Titan or the Avenger in general has a weird interior because of the bed there's like nothing in that middle section other than the bed. But generally speaking, the Avenger is okay. But the Freelancer is very old.
Doesn't the Avengers bed also have that kind of a kitchenette on the other side? So it's kind of got that living S quarters.
It doesn't. I don't remember it does. I thought it should have, but I think it's just a wall.
Yeah.
And it's like it should be a little kitchenette, but
I think originally it may have had something like that, but that's stretching my memory.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's already been reworked because they did change it so that it was no longer. Remember, it used to be a crawl space to get into that from a cargo bag. You kind of to crawl down and get in, and they changed that so it was more. It worked better.
They expanded it. They made it bigger.
Yeah.
I remember when it got chunk. It went from tiny to chunk.
Yeah, but I think that was one of those changes that they may not have wanted to do, but it was necessary for NPCs to be able to navigate and walk around. A bit like I often look at the Phoenix and the seating area around the Phoenix, and you think, gee, that table is so far away. How would I ever get my drink? Because it's like, you need to be Stretch Armstrong to be able to reach it. But when you walk around the tables, you can see Oh, it's been done specifically so that avatars and NPCs can actually navigate the mesh. And it's like the Mercury Star Runner, why it's got crawl spaces, crouch spaces rather than crawl spaces.
Yeah.
So
let me go through some of these other questions. There's another one came up from
Prime's got one in YouTube.
Paul, those 3D model videos you publish are great. Do you believe then hope that CIG watches them and put some of the ideas from the ship design? What? I think you're confusing me with the Astro Chronicles. The AstroPub and the Astro Historian doesn't do. I don't do the 3D model videos. That's the Astro Chronicles, I believe. So wrong person, Prime.
The only 3D models I can see you having done is the actual models of the ships that are already in game.
Yeah, there's this thing called the Holo Viewer, which I use when I'm talking about ships often, and the Holo Viewer has a natural turntable. If you pull it up, you can. What I do is I usually pull up the Holo Viewer, make it full screen, and then record it in 1440, and then put that 1440 video directly on my 1080 timeline, so it crops out most of the other stuff, and so you just see the ship turning around. That's literally it's CIG's Holo Viewer. So
yeah, and that's ships that are in game. So
yeah.
But there are other people who do look at 3D model ships, and there is a whole modding community on Spectrum, and people who have been building ships. One of my favourites is by an Australian whose name has eluded me at the moment, but he did the Bell. He was building a destroyer, the Bell Alexander destroyer. Beautiful ship, and he was building it and going, okay, what makes sense? So he's looking at what does it need, what would a destroyer have, right? Bang, that's what it's got. And he was trying to build his ship with function trumping form. But it was still a beautiful looking ship, but too well rounded in my to be a Star Citizen ship. You know, a Star Citizen I always look for a flaw. This seemed too well rounded. It made sense. Everything made sense, but it was too well rounded. It was more a cruiser in firepower and everything than even a but beautiful ship. So.
Yeah, it's hard to I'm always on the fence about fan-made stuff because we've already talked about how CIG's is it cool? Then do it. Because it's like I find that often fan-made stuff is it's plausible and really well thought out and it looks nice, but it's but CIG wouldn't do it because they don't think it's cool or it's too functional or whatever. So
yeah, and I think some things are cool. I would say, the Bell Alexander is a really cool looking ship. It fits. It's it got all of that, but I think it doesn't fit in Star Citizen, stream wise and aspect wise it does. But do I think it fits in terms of does it fit in lore? Yep. But does it fit in terms of having flaws and making it playable to be a ship that you would be able to defeat easily? Probably not. But do you want every ship to be something where you can find a hole where you can punch through? Sometimes you want. Sometimes you want that ship that I can run back to. Run away and hide. Brave Sir Robin, So.
Next question comes from Nova 42 on Twitch, who asks, do you think the Freelancer will overtake the Cutlass as the ship of choice as the game develops? Yes and no. I think because the thing is right now, a lot of people choose the Cutlass because it just does everything. And I think the reason why people don't choose the Freelancer as much is because even though it does everything, it's not as nimble. It doesn't look as cool as well. But once you start having distance starts mattering, I think anytime someone wants to do something outside of a star, like a planetary system, then the Freelancer will be the choice. Whereas if you're doing something inside a planetary system, the Cutlass will be a choice. So
yep. The Cutlass is a really nice ship to use for within system, but as you said, the second you want to be able to do lots of things without having to go refuel, you'll pick something else. But
Mhm.
the Freelancer is, yeah, it's not a very nice ship to fly. I think it still suffers from slit window.
Mhm.
It's still got that sense of that slit window. It doesn't feel nimble. It feels big when you're flying it. It feels sluggish and slow, as opposed to the Cutlass, which is weird because the Cutlass went from being that nimble fighter. You'll remember it went from nimble fighter to sluggish tub, which brought about the Buccaneer, and now it's gone back to almost a nimble. It's almost gone. I think it's gone back to what almost the original concept of it was, of it being this nimble fighter with cargo space. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think fuel efficiency and distance is going to matter more in the future than people realize, especially once the universe gets bigger, because people forget we're the ones. I always like to give credit us because I think we were the first ones to point it out, that just like really put into context. Stanton is Pyro is teeny weeny. Pyro is 3 times the size of Stanton and more.
And it's small.
Yeah. And there are more like minimum more star systems like Pyro than there are like Stanton. They're much more like in the 15 to 20 range of AU, with some being in like the 100 and plus 150, 200 AU, something like that. So
yeah, and where Stanton's got 4 big developed planets, every other system may have 1 or 2. Or 1,
and sometimes not even a series of stations either. Just nothing there outside of the main shipping lanes or anything. So
we are spoiled in Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible to think that people think Stanton is empty. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think that'll change a little bit when we start getting flora and fauna and NPCs become more popular. I mean, as far as I can tell, we're waiting on CIG to get server meshing to function in order for them to actually put the stuff in.
They put other stuff in, yeah.
They love, in the Squadron 42 monthly reports, they love talking about all of these secret creatures that they're making and all of the NPC behaviors. So,
and as an explorer, I'm sure you'd love to be able to hunt down those different rare creatures and take them away. How many turtles did you collect in the olden days?
I didn't collect many. I used to collect one and run around pretending it was the Xian ambassador. So
okay,
one at a time.
Xian babies.
Well, I mean, babies. You told me, or I've told you that there is canonically a consulate on Area 18, like a Xian consulate. So, and where do you find the turtles in the game right turtle? Now? Yeah, yeah. So I'm not saying that the turtles are actually they're not actually the turtles. They're actually baby Xian, but I'm just implying it heavily that you are all abducting infant Xian.
So really, it's a Xian attempt to infiltrate all areas of the UEE.
Yes, it's like those like the myths about crocodiles, people flushing baby crocodiles down the toilet so they end up in the sewers. Like that's really what's going to happen. Is that people are going to flush their baby turtles and they'll grow up to be savage Xian and infest cities and destroy them from the inside out.
That's right. So beware. I keep saying Leilani Addison. She's at fault here. So, a question from YouTube from Ray Lauderdale. When the Perseus is released, how will Badgers be stopped from ruling the PU?
He's garbage. That's how he'll stop from ruling PU. He has no skill.
One torpedo up the tailpipe.
Yeah. An Aurora will defeat him at that point. Come at me, Badgers. You old man.
Will is the Perseus a great ship? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's just, but and I think we've always said that on Inforunners. It's a great ship, but at $50 less than a Polaris. Not in a month of Sundays. It's a bit like they released. We had the command and control episode that came out this week as well, where they were looking at how to defend a Polaris, and some had Perseus in them and hammerheads, and I don't think the hammerhead's a good choice. Like it's got 8 turrets that you can use for anti-ship defense, but as a ship, it's got 8 crew. You need to man all your turrets. It's got, it's not necessarily the best ship in terms of flight. It's $50 more than a Perseus. Like what the? So if I'm after
I don't know what just happened there. Hold on. I probably hit mute something. No. You just muted Al, I think, on your end. There you go. You're good now.
Let's see.
Your audio went away, but your video's fine.
Je ne sais pas. Or say it, I don't understand.
I don't know if you can hear me.
So.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, starting to get we're starting to get the jitters. So must be people are starting to wake up in my neck of the woods. Curse you, internet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I look at the Perseus compared to a hammerhead. The Perseus has those 2 big size 7 guns, but it's also got 2 remote/automated turrets for anti-ordnance, anti-fighter defense, and it uses less crew. So the Perseus almost seems better than the hammerhead in some regard, and it's super heavily armored. So, do you think a Perseus could eat a torpedo if needed and survive?
I don't think so. Not a size 9. It's not that big, So, yeah. The Perseus's downside is going to be it doesn't punch up; it punches down. It bullies ships. So, like a bomber will take out a Perseus pretty easily. All right. Next question comes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder whether it could at least eat one and survive. With its shield and its armor, eat one, survive.
If it's full, maybe.
But I could see, I see if you're defending a capital ship and you've got torpedoes coming in, you can't shoot them. Your small ship, it goes in harm's way. Doesn't matter what it is, and that's why I think ships like the Hammerhead and the Perseus are just too expensive at the moment. They should be disposable ships. They are ships you put in harm's way to get blown up if need be to protect your capital ships. But yeah. Anyway, moving on.
The next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, lore question. The Polaris design doesn't fit the RSI style like the Perseus and now the Galaxy. Looks like an anvil ship by lore. Does it make sense that RSI bought the anvil blueprints to make the design? No, it looks like the Polaris looks exactly like the Perseus and the Galaxy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what picture of the Polaris you're looking at. But the engines are RSI. The nose is RSI. I don't see it as not being an RSI looking ship.
Yeah. I'm looking at them together. Here, I'll open up these links. I will pull open the video, the links, and copy. I'll do a quick ghetto way of putting us up here.
Yep.
There we go.
And yes, this is pre-recorded, not live.
Yes,
pre-recorded.
100%.
It's always pre-recorded. We never do any live shows.
There's no such thing as live show. What are you talking about? Live is invented. It's an invention of the deep state that's trying to get you to pretend that like things are, okay. It's live doesn't exist. Everything's pre-recorded. There we go. So that's a Perseus, right?
Yep.
And then. Get the Polaris up here.
So while we're waiting for the ships to appear and turn up on the show, if you like this content, if you've been here before, if you like our discussion, don't forget to hit that bell, hit the subscribe button, and give us a like, because it does help. It's surprising how much that helps. It helps so much you'll see every YouTuber says it.
Yes.
Because the algorithm is an absolutely nasty taskmaster.
It's the robust. The way you got to think about it, chat, is and dear viewers, is that the algorithm is designed to find people who may like content. And so if you say you like this content, by commenting and liking the video, it will reach out to other people who have similar watch patterns to you and suggest these videos to them. And so they may eventually watch it and be like, hey, we also enjoyed this. So if you want to help support us and you want us to grow and you want to see more people come in and see the wonderful cult of the Endeavor, I mean the Inforunners, then please do hit that like button and so on and forth. But the design shape in this are very similar. The engines are very similar. I'm looking at between these two. The only difference is that the cockpit placement for the Polaris is in the front and the Perseus is in like kind of a more of a command deck sort of thing.
Yeah,
I don't really see any difference between those styles, especially the wedge.
The language, and even the little winglets are
Yeah.
the same on both of those ships. And then
The
you
same
pull up,
placement
if you
too.
pulled up a Connie and put them next to it, you'd see the cockpit areas for both all three ships would be very, very similar in design language. You do the same with your Apollo, you'll see the cockpit language is the same. Probably the big difference on the Polaris is that big hangar section at the back, which you know necessitates girth.
Yeah, it's the reason why the bridge is in the front rather than in the back, because the back is open for the bay. That's pretty much the difference between it and the other ships like it. So,
But
yeah.
Mate. Well, glad to have you, David S. Pumpkin. David S. Pumpkin says, I'm David S. Pumpkin Man. Or I'm David Pumpkin Man.
Welcome.
Welcome. Midgard says, I think we need a Freelancer bounty hunter variant with holding chambers. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that type of thing. I've always had the idea, and I think Execute has similarly had it. We saw the a variant of the Avenger, which was in Squadron 42, had cargo area plus some cells, and so we actually had the idea that those prison cells or cryotube sections, or whatever you want to call them, or almost modular little components that'll take up cargo space in a ship, and you'd be able to buy them and put them in. And if that's the case, then you'd be able to eventually make any ship that's got an interior cargo space into a bounty hunter, because you just put them in the cargo grid and be done with it. So yet to be seen whether that is the case. I'd love it if it was, but yeah. What do you think about that, Paul?
I think it's a good idea. I much prefer.
So Freelancer bounty hunter, and also whether the cryotubes would be something, like cargo type containers that you.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Is that I'm much more preferable to like them being like containers or some other kind of add-ons that you can put into the ship, rather than being something that's only unique to very specific ships. I get you can have it so that ships like the Blue can hold more because they have that bespoke system, or maybe that system can have the freeze timer last longer, like the battery lasts longer, so you don't have to, you have less of a time constraint for coming back. But yeah. So
well, you'd remember the early variants of ships were there to be examples of what we can do with our ship. So, you get you watch the old Aurora ad, and it was the idea, you can change. I want to add a bigger cargo container. Yep, you can do that. I want to change the weapons. Yep, can do that. I want to change up the components. Yep. I want to change the missiles. Yep. The idea was that you would buy your base ship and you'd be able to go for different modules, different variants by changing modules and changing bits and pieces. That's something that seems to have been gone a long time ago, and we've now got the variants which are become bespoke. Some of them are bespoke, and some of them are still done by changing the modules. So it would be very nice to see some of that still there, but yeah.
All right. Nova asks another question. Where do you think the Spirit series falls in rivalry between the Cuddy and the Lancer? I have a hard time thinking that it's good. Like, I take one look at the Spirit, and I'm like, it's not doesn't have as much cargo as the Freelancer. It may have slightly more cargo than a Cuddy, but it's so fat. It's so like big. Like it's cross
and it's got and it's an endless tube of doors you've got to go through.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that it's got over both of those is, well, two big things it's got over those is, one, the luxury transport version, and two, the bomber.
Yeah, I don't think the C2 is going to be as good as people think, or the A2 or the A2 or the C1, I should say, the C1.
Yeah. Yes, the Algared rhythm. Yes, we all know that the Algared rhythm is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, because it has 48 SEU of cargo, and I believe the Freelancer has more than that. But that is more than the Cutlass. But like, the Cutlass has tractor beams, so the same as the C does. So
yeah, and the Cutlass has always had tractor beams. It's not something they've added lately. It's something that the Cutlass was always going to have. They just didn't have them initially. So, well, we don't have them in game, but
yeah, I imagine it's balanced with somewhere in the middle. So like, it'll probably have more range than the Cutlass, but less range than the Freelancer. And because of its weird shape, it's probably not going to be as easy to get through with, like you get through places as the Freelancer is, but it's probably faster.
I could see it. I could see it not being as maneuverable as a Cutlass, but certainly faster. Because the design language seems to say speed, to me at least. But I get the feeling they're not going to be maneuverable or nimble. I could see them possibly being, and I think this is one of the things that Crusader ships seem to have in a design language over other ships, is that they seem to be better suited, or they seem like they would be better suited for atmosphere rather than a lot of other ships. I think the Avengers would be the only other ship that seems to, the Avengers and the Origin series would be other ships that kind of seem to fit that design language.
You see it a little bit with Gladius, and some of the Aegis designs, but it's like, that's pure military compared to like civilian. But you also have the problem with someone's like, I don't see the appeal. I know the appeal. It's a Normandy. It's the Mass Effect Normandy. That's what it is. Like, But it's that style. People love that style, and so that's what it is. People love that idea. So, and there are people who like the Nomad still, and I don't understand it, but hey, it's fine.
I think it's just because it's a Ute.
It is.
I can understand why lots of Australians could like it because it's a Ute, but to me, the design, I'm not really a fan of Consolidated Outland. I always thought that Silas was a smuck.
He's a smuck.
And people say, people were saying he's like Elon Musk back then. And I think these days people would say Elon Musk is a schmuck as well. So
yeah.
So I feel vindicated in my assessment of Silas that he's a schmuck. I took that view when the Mustang first came out, and the clip for the containers that the Mustangs were carrying was basically exactly the same as they use on the Auroras. They basically just lifted it and took it because that's the type of schmuck that Silas is. I'm sorry, Ben.
We're not talking about your brother, Ben. We're not talking about your brother.
So for those who don't know, the CEO of Consolidated Outland, Ben Lesnick named him, and basically he's named after his brother. So there you go. Linton says, long live the Algared show. Oh, thanks. Golly gosh, gee whiz. He also says he likes his content and asks the question, are we live or is it recorded?
It's pre-recorded. We're not live.
Yeah, we always do. It's a Memorex. It's from the vault. Always from the vault.
Always from the vault. We're just psychics, so we can answer your questions
Yep.
live.
And we
So
and we thank you. Well, actually, we managed to get those questions from back in the day, and yeah, so it's these comments that we're able to, we're psychic and can deal with. So yeah. Parker XPGS says, XGPS says, greetings, Inforunners, Algared, Paul, and chat.
hey, Parker.
So welcome.
Let's see. There was another question I saw up here. Question: the Polaris reconcept lacks command control room like the Galactopedia lists. Is this another ship oversight? No. I think we've seen the interior already of it.
Of the
Polaris. Let me look
yeah,
at
I
the
think they've
interior.
shown bits of a Polaris, but I can't recall.
Yeah, they've shown the interior, I believe. I'm going to go to check it out real quick.
Yep.
Technical deck. Oh. Yeah, I had it.
While you're digging that up, Jonas 2000 on YouTube says that don't forget the C1 also has one less turret than the Cuddy and Freelancer. So that'll also make it. That almost again puts it into that middle category, doesn't it? In between them, it's got less firepower. That means it'll gain something somewhere else, but it doesn't seem to be as nimble. So they'll do the balance. They'll kind of make one. One will be really good at combat, one will be good at defense, and one will be in the middle. And it's just a matter of which one will be rock, which one is paper, and which one is scissors. And
yeah. I'm looking through some of this, and I'm not seeing any even the original concept. I'm not seeing any briefing room or anything like that. There's a bunk room, there's a bathroom, there's a mess hall, there's a CO room, there's a captain's room, an armory, and a main elevator. But I don't ever remember. Like I'm trying to remember if there was. I don't think there was ever something.
I know there was a brig, but I can't remember a briefing room or anything like that. So
yeah.
I know the Idris has a briefing room.
There's definitely a command and control in the sense that there's the front. That's where the the cockpit is. That's the bridge. But
does it have a big globe or is it just a small?
I think it has a globe on it. So.
And so the globe would possibly give, if it's got a big globe, that would give you some form of command and control, I imagine. But is it specifically designed to be a command and control ship?
Not that I know of, really. And no, they're definitely not going to retcon the Polaris. Same question answer asker says, I bet they'll be developed. The Polaris being developed after Squadron 42 will be retconned.
I don't. What about you?
What's that?
I was going to say I don't. Yeah, I'm shaking my head and I'm going no, but I'm agreeing with you. I'm disagreeing with what the question is saying. But I do think it is a command and control ship because of the way the law design and the way it was built and designed as being part of a ship for the civilian defence force, as being the flagship for civilian defences or local defence forces. So if it's a flagship, it's got to have some form of command and control of the ships in its fleet. Don't do that, Paul.
Sorry, I need to get some more stay awake juice here in a moment. Look at through some of the other questions. I'm not seeing much. Well, we actually have it. I'm asking because the lore of the ship necessitates a command and control room given its modern Idris. Not really, because like you don't really need a command and control room because you've got the mess hall, which is probably a multi-purpose room, and then also it's got a CO room, which doubles as a pilot room. You don't really need, because you only have one pilot on board. I don't think you need like a briefing room like you have in the Idris. I think that's more of they had the space, so they put it in there.
But I do think, so you don't need a briefing room, but I do think there is a command and control aspect of the ship because it is the flagship of local defence forces, and it was built as that. And while it is the modern day Idris, i.e. the corvette that the Idris was supposed to be, the Idris was always meant to have at least two fighters on it because you needed you and your wingman. The Polaris doesn't need that, so it can stick with that idea of just being a a single fighter, which probably ties it better, probably makes it a better corvette in that sense, rather than being a large corvette just to facilitate that what was seen as being necessary for squadron.
Yeah. Question: will Silas rename the Consolidated Outland to O? No, Silas is going to buy SSN/CATV and rename it to S. Is what he's going to rename it as. Or C.
He's going to make a play. He's going to make a play for Spectrum. Yeah.
Yes.
So pick one of a little outcoming one of a little offshoot social
channels
platforms in the universe, and that's what Silas will try and do, because
he'll buy one of the Terra, the upstart Terra news corporations, something like that,
and then try to save it. He did it.
Yes,
he developed it and built it, because I'm awesome, and but I'm showing my prejudices and biases.
I mean, the more that the information's come out about Silas, the more he's kind of a douche. Like the thing you have to understand about Silas is that Silas was born with not a silver spoon, not a golden spoon, but like a platinum spoon in his mouth. He is the son of the Kerner family, and the Kerner family have basically run Bremen since like Bremen was founded. Like the Kerner family is like one of the first, if not the only families. The first, if not one of the first, if not the first families to settle the system. And so the Kerners have always been the de facto governors, even if before there was even governors. So like, dude was rich. What's that?
You're underselling them. There was discussion in Spectrum recently about, are there monarchies? And the response was basically, you can have a monarchy as long as you abide by UEE laws. The Corners are basically the closest we've got to an official monarchy.
Oh yeah, basically. I mean, they're kind of like the kings, and the founding families of Bremen are definitely the feudal lords in that system. But yeah, so Kerner made $1 billion by the time he was 12, because he used his dad's money to invest, and then managed to get like more money, and that's how he got his start. But he always loved spaceships, but hated everyone who made spaceships. So like he called the Gladiator a giant piece of shit, like almost direct quote. He hated Origin. He hates Origin. He thinks it's absolutely a terrible company. Like he has a long list of ships he's shit talked. He thinks the Aurora is a tin can wrapped in like duct tape. Like he does not like most modern ship designers, which is why he's founded Consolidated Outland. So.
And he built some absolutely abysmal plans as he was trying to build the Mustang as well. Like he tried twin hull, we basically glued two of them together, and had multiple cases where pilots were killed in test flying his ships. So yeah, he's a really stellar guy. Not, what's his bet? Where do we hear the most about him in the chat? In green in Arena Commander, as he flies around. As you're flying the race, the question is Silas watching the show in his private booth? Yeah, he's a douche. I've never really liked the guy, but then that was also because I thought he was just ripping off RSI stuff, and I'm an RSI fan. So.
Doesn't he like Drake? No, he doesn't like Drake.
He doesn't like anything.
He doesn't like anything except for himself.
Well, sorry. He likes Consolidated Outland.
Yes.
He likes Mustang. He likes Nomad. He likes.
Yeah.
Anything else is rubbish. So now we'll get we've now got the law team going right. We'll fix that little dragon.
we definitely need people like Silas Kerner in the verse, though, because you need someone like that for someone to say he's a douche. And other people are like, no, I like him. He's an entrepreneur and he's doing cool things, and I like his ideas. It's like those sorts of polarizing characters are important. So.
Yeah, as Space Tomato says, in regard to ships and the gameplay, there's got to be things in the game that you hate, and there'll be things that you love, and that's what'll make the game. It polarizes people, and you see that with the companies. There are people. Someone asked earlier, will the Freelancer ever replace the Cutlass? for some people, no, it will never replace the Cutlass because it's not
Mhm.
Drake.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who absolutely love Drake and must have Drake. There are other people who absolutely must have MISC and none of anything else. There are people who we've done Fix My Fleet and people, no, I don't like, I don't buy that company at all. I hate that company. Don't touch them. It's the best ship for that. No, I don't touch them. Okay. That's just the way it is. We're people with flavors and choices, and we come to our, we get to, we like different things. It's Parker actually sums it up in YouTube chat, each to their own.
Yeah.
And that's right. We've got their different flavors.
Another YouTube track question, real quickly, from Parker, who asks, if I recall correctly, the Freelancer Max was sold as the largest hauler to fit through the smallest jump point. Seems a claim CIG would like to walk back. I don't think CIG even knows what jump points are right now.
I've had the idea, and I think
Sizes.
it's something
sizes. Yeah.
Yep, and I think it's the idea that the sizes of the jump points are to do with the stability of the jump point, not the actual size of the hole of the tunnels. And I know I didn't come up with it. I'm not sure it was X either. But someone in our discussion group kind of raised that up as being what they think that'll be, and I think they're right. It makes sense. It makes sense as to why Stanton that's got a small jump point to Pyro can be invaded by Idrises, which are not able to go through small jump points, apparently. So there has to be something. So to me, that makes sense. But how will CIG work with it? As you said, I don't think CIG have worked out what they're doing with jump points at the moment.
Yeah. We just don't know. Like, CIG has yet to figure out how that works, because they've already put themselves in a corner, because the only jump point between Pyro and Stanton is a medium jump point. But apparently it's a medium. But yeah, but apparently you can fit a freaking Idris through a medium jump point. That changes the sizes up pretty dramatically. So
at least at the moment we know it can't take we think it can't take a javelin, because at the moment the Xeno threat haven't come through with a javelin, which is which is a damn good thing. Although if they do ever come with a javelin, we know that they are definitely Meserites.
Yeah.
So Death Factor. Oh no, we've answered that one. That was when Silas will change the name to O. Can't command and control. I thought I saw that and I just lost it because I scrolled. Dang, damn it. Can't command and control reside on the bridge? It can, and it probably will. So that was going back to that Polaris question. And I think that's where it'll be. Like ships with the big globe, like you see on the 890 jump, with the big globe at the back, that would give the 890 jump, I think, an ability to do some form of command and control. How effective they'll be at that is yet to be seen, but you'd need at least that element to be able to do that. I think the fact that the Carrack's got that cartography room with the big globe will possibly give the Carrack the ability to operate in that function as well. Again, how well it can do that is yet to be seen, but I think that the bare minimum you need to be able to do command and control.
Yeah, you definitely need to have that sort of like situational awareness and that kind of thing. Question: coffee or tea?
Wassa.
if you
for me,
go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Al.
For me, definitely coffee. If you've heard me talk, I love a geisha. The geisha coffee is exquisitely smooth, silky. Coffee should never, ever, ever be bitter. It should never be, and it should never be it should never be bitter, and it should never be horrid. It should be smooth and silky and flavoursome, and And if it's ever bitter, they've either burned the coffee or it's crap bean.
The secret is that you're talking to two teachers. So Coffee is always going to be the case. I know some teachers who enjoy their tea, but if you're trying to like get the pick me up to get me up and get me through the day, it's going to be coffee.
Which is really a problem for teachers because
Mhm.
coffee dries out the voice cords,
Mm-hmm.
and
They started to talk.
and so so our voice is our tool, and you look after your tools, and hence
Hence,
don't
agua.
brux.
Hence,
Don't
waga.
go.
Yeah.
Every time you do that, you're damaging your voice cords.
Yeah, don't do that because
Um,
that will damage your voice cords. It's better to rest your voice and or hydrate as well, which is why every
Yep.
teacher I know carries a giant bottle of water everywhere they go because they also need to keep their voice from drying out naturally.
Yep. And the other thing you do, if you do have that sense of needing to clear your throat, little cough.
Mhm.
Just a little cough like that helps clear it and that. And so you've got to try and break the habit of bruxing, as they call it. And man, I still do it. I still brux.
Yeah.
I think everyone still does it because it's just
Sometimes you just need to do it to get through a sentence, but it's bad. All
every time you
right.
do it, you're damaging. So yeah.
Yeah.
Parker,
Go ahead.
I know that's he does ask a question, but that's the one you just did. He
Mhm.
also asked a question about what is it. I think he asked earlier or made a statement earlier about the what does the C1 mean for small jump points? And I think that ties in with his question he's got with the Freelancer being able to being originally the biggest ship to go for small jump points. And I think it
Yeah.
comes down to whatever CIG do with jump points, and
Yeah.
they'll do something that makes sense, but we don't know. Luminalia says on YouTube, all of our most value Star Citizen scholar.
Thank you. I did get a couple of lashbacks because I did a video on Starfield lore, and a bunch of people are like, I only watch you for Star Citizen content, and I'm like, I'm looking at my content, like my numbers for the last 2 weeks, and then I look at the numbers that Starfield videos do, and I'm like, well, apparently you're one of the 5 people who do. Everyone else is just watching me for watching me. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I think there could be the situation where people have actually watched that episode of Starfield because they're interested in Starfield and
Yeah.
it came up in their feed. And if they have, well, watch Paul's other content and become Star Citizen aficionados.
For those people who are wondering, like Paul's going to abandon Star Citizen, I'm probably not going to abandon Star Citizen. But if I'm doing Starfield content, then more people will look at my Starfield content, and then if I do a Star Citizen content while I'm doing Starfield content, they'll be like, "Wait, this game isn't a scam. Wait, this is more thing I can do for." So like, whenever you see, and this is the key, whenever you see somebody in the Star Citizen community covering a different game or doing something like slightly different, like maybe streaming a different game or doing videos on a different game, don't get mad. Support them when they do that.
Yeah.
Because when they come back to Star Citizen, eventually they'll bring a new audience in.
In fact, what you want to do when Paul makes his Starfield videos, even if you are only a Star Citizen fan and you watch his Star Citizen videos, is watch his Starfield videos as well. Because the algorithm will then go to anyone who watches his Starfield videos
Is
will
also
get
interested in
Star
Star
Citizen
Yeah.
information plugged their way. So
Yeah.
feed the algorithm. Watch the shows. That's another
All right.
plug for liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell. By the way,
I'm gonna have to do a quick. Yes, I'll do that real quick.
not that we're plugging those things, but yeah, it's if you've got a YouTube channel that you like, or regardless of whether it's Inforunners or Paul or Space, anyone, like, subscribe, and hit their bell because it really does help them.
It does.
So,
all right. So let me do the studio mode real quickly because apparently ISC just went live, so we can watch this together. But I have to set up a.
Yeah, you have to set up a delay so that I'll watch it live with you rather than with a 10-second delay.
Yes, so I'm just setting this up real quickly. Okay. And I'm going to add display capture, no, screen capture. Feel free to answer some questions as I'm doing this too.
So we did. I was just looking for the question. So doesn't he like great question from Death Factor, which we said no, he likes consolidated Outland because we're talking Silas. Stitch Blades then says Argo for life. Def Factor does come back with the. He did make the comment that he also owns the Lobster, and that's true. Silas is known for having a museum with every ship in the verse, which does mean he does own an Aurora and a Mustang and a Cutlass and a he does have a museum with every ship in the verse, much to my angst.
Camera 2. Okay.
One day he's not going to have it because I'm going to steal it. Oh, sorry, I'm going to relocate it.
Yes, there we go.
So.
Okay, I'm going to have to edit this a little bit. Then.
I think something's just happened to my window too.
Yes, I'm fixing it right now.
Yep. That's what happened when he was trying to fix the make the sound so it works for ISC. Then we've got Argo for life from Stitch Blades, and Argo will always be for life. I'd love to see more Argo ships, but I'm not sure what ships best fit for Argo. What would you say? What would be a good new ship for Argo?
You could do. I think that works. You could definitely do with Argo. You could definitely do. Oh, darn it! Sorry, I gotta. There we go.
Paul is showing mere male qualities. He does one thing really well.
Yes.
At a time.
I would say anything that has to do with support and logistics for like space stations and the like. I think that's really what we would see. So
yeah, I consider repair ships as well for them. Luminalia says jump points and laughs. Ostentatious. Man, I can remember an Australian comedian called Ostentatious way back in the day. Is currently the MSR as one of the last to mention maximum in the small. So yeah, I think the Ostentatious was the MSR was the last ship they said was the largest ship that could go for a small jump point. But I think they did modify the old Freelancer line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, who knows what they'll do? Like we said, we have no idea what they'll do with the with those jump points because I don't think CIG have worked it out themselves fully yet.
Okay.
Drake is like Toyota of Star Citizen Universe. I like Drake, says Luminalia. Guess until we know, we don't, and that's probably it in terms of jump points. Until we know, we don't. You'd think the 890 Battle Bridge may want some use. So yes, that's another use for the 890 jump as well. It's probably with the battle. It's the only ship that's got a second bridge. I don't know of any other ship in verse so far that has even the Idris doesn't have a second bridge, to my knowledge.
All right. I have
Paul,
it. Hold on. I have it.
Last question before we go. Paul, Algared, what concept ship are each of you most looking forward to and why?
Right now, actually, I've said something else. Concept ship is probably. Yeah, that's so good. Concept ship is probably. There's not really many concept ships I really care about. I'll just use the generic one and say the Endeavor. Why? Because it's when the Endeavor is released, the game is done.
Yeah. There's lots of ships I'm looking forward to. I think I'd like to see the Crucible. The Crucible is probably a ship that I've always liked the idea of it being.
You're muted, by the way. Can't hear you.
It must.
You're good now. You're back.
Yeah, I think it's just that laggy issue that we get every so often. The Crucible for me, I think, is the Crucible and the Hull and the Carrack were the three ships when I first started following Star Citizen that to me said, this is not just a pew pew game. And the Crucible's that repair ship. It's kind of like playing the cleric in an MMO. It's the med ship for ships, if that makes sense. So that's probably it for me.
All right, I'm gonna step away real quickly so I can get something to drink, but then we'll watch ISC together, and I'll have it up here on the screen. So don't go anywhere. Al I'll leave you with the comedy stylings of Algared.
No, I'll just be waiting for Paulie to come back and bring me some a drink, Paulie, while you're away. Luminalia, I'll answer that question. Parker says I'll play Starfield. I probably won't play Starfield myself. To me, I've watched the videos of Starfield. Yeah, it's a pretty game, but to me, it just feels like Fallout. It's just one of their games. It's just a Bethesda standard. Hasn't really appealed to me at all. I did have a situation the other day at school. I was talking to my students, and they were talking computers, and I said, "Yeah, I'm a gamer." And I can't remember what they asked a couple of questions, and I said something. They asked something about the monitor, and I talked monitor or something, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're a gamer." I don't know what it was, but they decided I was a gamer. So, which is always interesting when the kids decide you are. Let's see. Parker talks about Argo could do a barge. Yeah, I could see a barge ship that could string multiple containers together like a road train. Yeah. If you've never seen Australian road trains, they are basically semi-trailers that go, if you've ever read Amtrak Wars, that's almost what a road train feels like. It's just carriage after carriage after carriage. Just so yeah. Argo Search and Rescue. Argo would be ideal for that as well. I could see that. Oddball Hobby Channel says Aurelian. Is that your favorite ship, Oddball? Or would you like to see something else? Luminalia says Endeavour was my first concept purchase. I can't wait. Yeah, look, the Endeavour is the absolute best ship out there. And when you consider the purchase of a base Endeavour is $350, and the concept ships for the Endeavour are a Cutlass Red and a Starfarer, that I think works out at being $450 of value in ships in the market. So if you're wondering, should I get an Endeavour and upgrade it, or take the Endeavour, then having an Endeavour is good value at the moment, because you get the loaner ships are actually more value. And so, yeah, you get a Cutlass Red, enables you to do first day play, and you get the Starfarer, which has fueling and cargo and other stuff. $450 odd worth of ships for a $350 base ship of an Endeavour. It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. So,
all right, I have my go juice. Let's go watch. Let's watch some. Okay, there's me. Okay. There we go. All right, that should work now. All right, we're going to watch ISC. It's 20 minutes, y'all.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Inside Star Citizen, our weekly look at the behind-the-scenes development of what my mother calls that video game Jared's making whenever she explains it to her friends. It's quarter 3, and if you've been following this show in any of its incarnations for a while now, you know that the road to CitizenCon is a very interesting one for our weekly video content, as we skillfully avoid all the hot topics being saved for the big, now 2-day event, and use that challenge as an opportunity to explore aspects of our development that might otherwise never get a chance to shine. It's an opportunity this quarter to look at how Rastar is being used to remaster existing UGFs in Alpha 320, to explore racing a little bit, and a new ship that readers of Jump Point magazine and our social media channels probably already know is on its way. An update to Claudius and how it's being used to create even more immersive environments heading your way, and then a spin around the whole VFX department to see what they're up to. Yes, Virginia, it's true, there will be fire. We can do all this and more as we navigate our journey to the big 2 days in October. But up this week, and my reason for sitting here at my desk, dumping just a little bit of SCL into our ISC, is to talk to Torsten and Jacob from the EUPU feature team about the prototyping process, how they test design and programming implementations at the earliest stages, and how it relates to munching, an important component of salvage, and my nightly routine just 20 minutes before I go to sleep. Torsten, Jacob, how you doing, people?
Doing good.
I am fine, thank you.
Right, so we are here talking about prototyping process. Before we get into it, give me the top level, just the LinkedIn version answer. What is a prototype and why do we do it?
A prototype basically can have several facets in game development, and for us particular, it is always about gameplay, and in this particular case, it is about the technical problems that we might face and we might have to solve. So for that, we always use prototypes, and playtesting those prototypes is a crucial part in game development, where it is mainly used to prove theories, where the theory is either gameplay is fun, does it technically work, and this is basically what the purpose of a prototype is.
Anything you want to add, Jacob?
From more of a dev perspective, we tend to take what the designer's vision is for gameplay, and then we've got to figure out how can we achieve that in the game, and just as often that's not crystal clear from the start, so we have to try a few things and see what technical hurdles might be ahead of us that we're going to have to consider for the full development.
So what we're going to do on this week's show, the first of our quarter 3 shows where things are a little bit different, we are going to look at a feature at the absolutely earliest stage. This is earlier than we've ever shown any feature ever, the prototype phase. What we're about to show you is not going to look good. It's not going to look pretty. It's going to be weird, poppy, and buggy. So we're just warning you ahead before you take the footage and put it in your YouTube videos. What is the prototype that we're going to look at right now, Jacob?
We're going to be looking at the prototype for munching, the next tier of salvage. The idea being we need some way to take apart a larger ship and break it into little pieces so that you can then pick it up in your salvage ships, gain some material from that, and you'll be able to sell that later. But we're going to be looking at just the breaking a ship apart phase, which is what we're prototyping here.
All right, so I got it queued up here. Let's take a look at this here. So obviously this is a vulture approaching a gladius.
Yep. So for the prototype, we've added in a new munching mode, sub-mode to salvage. So all of that hull scraping UI has disappeared. And we're going down to just what we need for this prototype, which is the ability to break apart a ship, which at the moment is going to look exactly the same as if you blew it up with your guns, but in future that would look rather different.
What's happening right here? I see the bar filling up on the left,
okay,
but nothing's happening with the ship.
Yeah, so this is the placeholder for the actual gameplay that would happen here. The design will have some actual gameplay for what you have to do as a player to break the ship apart, but we put in that little placeholder, which is just essentially a timer, a progress bar, based on how big the target is.
And that is actually on purpose, because the question that we are asking in this prototype are more technical. That means that we shouldn't focus on the gameplay aspect, so we should keep the gameplay as minimal or as simple as possible, and then so that we can fully focus on the technical bits of the prototype.
Okay, so we saw it broken into some, what looked like normal debris, but now we got to break it into smaller munchable stuff. So we'll go back to the video here.
So breaking it into normal debris is stuff that you've seen before, but when we have this bigger part, it doesn't come apart into more pieces naturally. So in this prototype, we are just deleting the thing and replacing it with loads of tiny little placeholder pieces to act as the munched apart debris. What you're also seeing is a prototype for how you will get those pieces into your cargo, which is a little suction field that grabs those little pieces, drags them towards the grinder in the mouth of the Vulture, and from there they're converted into cargo.
Those little pieces that we saw are obviously not arted and everything. I want to remind people again, we've literally never shown anything in a prototype phase before, so forgive me for reiterating this 2 or 3 more times before we're done here. This is designer art, just small pieces to represent the mass and the size of stuff that we might be using.
It's even worse, it's coda art.
Yes, indeed. This is the programmer equivalent of a white box test, where I'm not even qualified to make white boxes, so I just rip off other assets that I found in the engine and just slap them together. So that's what this is.
And obviously, without being a prototype, there's no VFX, there's no explosions, there's no beams, there's none of the things that would mask this transition that would normally happen, so that you don't see the pieces just pop in, like they're currently doing.
Yes.
All right, so that was done on your local machine, just you on your workstation doing a local version of the universe here. The next phase, as I understand it, is to test it in PU conditions, and we're going to go ahead and start this video because this video is going to go for a little bit. Tell me what we're doing here.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what we're doing, and then we can discuss later why we're doing that.
Exactly.
What we're doing right here is I want to test worst case performance conditions. So I'm chucking in some console commands to load up or stream in several different landing zones at the same time. Because otherwise, me as just one player on the server, I wouldn't really be loading that much. I wouldn't be stressing the server. So I'm going to stress it quite a lot by loading up as many landing zones as I can think of off the top of my head, basically, until I see that server FPS count go appreciably lower. And then only once I've done that am I going to step into the actual gameplay test.
I also noticed you've upgraded from a Gladius to an 890 jump.
Yes, because when I think worst case for breaking a big thing into small things, I want the biggest possible thing, which is going to require lots and lots of small things. So, yeah, 890 jump is a good candidate for that.
Okay. So, what are you typing here? Oh, yeah.
I'm just typing in some comments for the other recipients of this video, because this was an internal video for, reviewing stuff.
Do you
Even
often use
CIG
console commands to leave notes for people?
There are other ways, but it's the most convenient.
Even CIG is having
so we've got
bad
the
FPS
server
on their own servers.
simulating PU conditions. All the landing zones are loaded at once instead of streaming in and out like they would normally would. So it's actually worse than you would see on a normal PU.
Always nice to see,
Indeed, and we're going to see that immediately, that this breaking the ship apart that we saw work so nicely in the editor, well, I've really annoyed the server here, because all of these pieces are popping in a not so great way, and I make a bit of a sarcastic comment about it in the console.
It's important to create these conditions, to test these things, not just in ideal conditions, not just the ideal universe of your own computer, or even the PU when it's like first loads and nobody's in and everything's great.
No, indeed. What I'm testing here is worse than we would hope it ever to be. We don't want it to ever be this bad, but we got to test it because it might be.
All right, so here's where beams would be shooting out, starting to break the ship apart.
yeah, there'd be extra gameplay here, there'd be VFX or whatever. But in the editor version, we saw pretty much as soon as the big piece disappeared, all those tiny little bits turned up. Well, it's not going to go that way in this situation. We're going to be waiting quite some time for all those little pieces to turn up.
Gotcha. And so while we're waiting for those pieces to turn up here, let's talk about what we learned from what we've learned from these tests so far. Obviously, there's some performance stuff, but there's also some gameplay implications from what we've seen. Torsten, you want to talk us through it?
Well, I can talk about some parts that we learned from, right?
Sure.
So the best thing that you can learn from a prototype is actually everything that goes bad, because this is the stuff that you can then iterate on and make the gameplay or the technical stuff even better. So from the gameplay perspective, so I will just talk about the gameplay stuff, and Jacob can talk about what we learned from a technical perspective there. Is from the gameplay we learned that what about big ships? So how, for example, now you saw the Vulture trying to attach to the 890 jump. That is a bit of a wonky situation and it doesn't feel right. So what about Vultures actually munching bigger ships? So how can we make that an interesting gameplay? Then you saw in the first video what happens when the ship transitions into the smaller bits. So the masking is a huge topic that we have to solve so that it feels right and you don't notice that one element pops away and another element pops in. So we definitely have to mask that. Then what you might have seen in the first part is the conversion of materials. I don't know if you paid attention to the filler station bar that basically fills the SCU crates in the backside of the Vulture, but that filled drastically faster than it would normally do with hull scraping. That means that it would be more painful for you to munch because you have to stand up from your seat more often, go down to the filler station, remove the boxes. So this is definitely an issue that we then have to solve because we really don't want to have this gameplay to be more tedious than it's has to be. So we have to find a solution how we can make it more like much nicer for the player to actually remove those crates there. Then the navigation around the pieces is also something that we notice isn't that fun. So we will probably utilize the tractor beams there because we are anyway working on them. But maybe that makes it much easier for players instead of flying around and getting the pieces between the fork of the Vulture and then having it disintegrate, but instead you pulling the pieces in with the tractor beam. The fork of the
What was that, Al?
They're going to need to if you just pause it for a bit and we can
I did.
Sorry, I'll just pause that. I'm actually watching it on YouTube because I'm not getting sound.
Here, let me do this. This will make it easier. I will just share my screen on Twitch or on
YouTube.
On YouTube, there we go. There we go. So you should be able to hear that through that too, I think. So it's loud, so because I want to make sure they can hear it.
Yep. But with the munching problem, like you'd expect the Vulture to fill up a lot quicker with its munching because it's taking a lot more content in. But it also does, as I said, raise that problem of, well, what do we do? And I think that really shows that limitation of what the Vulture is. It really is, in a sense, that starter ship for the profession. Yes, you can go munching. And I think, and as frustrating as it is to have to keep going and unloading and you know, moving the things away so you can take more in. I think it's something that they almost need to keep to give the larger ships that role to be able to come in. And that's why you'd need the Reclaimer to do those big ships. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, that's the point. As someone in the chat was like, wait, I didn't think the Vulture could do the whole munching. Yes, they can, but it's not going to be as efficient or as good as the Reclaimer. So,
and it should never be as good or efficient as the Reclaim at munching.
No.
Because it is a smaller ship, and you expect it to be a smaller ship. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me play this again so you can hear it.
Vulture is very limiting in terms of what pieces will fit. So this is also something we learned. And a big thing is which already is standing out is how can we make it fun and unique for the Reclaimer. So we just were looking in the prototype at the Vulture, and the big question that our team was asking in the end of that prototype was like, okay, how can we facilitate the claw and the uniqueness visuals, or the uniqueness in general of the Reclaimer, to actually facilitate that gameplay and have it stand out and be meaningful and fun.
All right, so a lot of gameplay, gameplay implications from just that little prototype. Jacob, what was your takeaways?
From the tech perspective, I'm looking at things like the performance and also just what am I going to have to account for to achieve the designer's vision here? And I know that we're going to want things like the time that it takes to destroy something to be somewhat proportional for its size and mass. But from the initial prototype, I could already see that a bigger piece taking longer. It already takes a few seconds with the Gladius. If we're going to scale that up and scale up the time as well proportionally to a big target, we're going to have to think about what equation are we going to use for scaling that, so that it doesn't take you ages, like sitting there for minutes to break something apart. I got to think about how I'm going to hook in the visual effects and the audio. What dependencies am I going to need to get involved?
Speaking of judging time, the entity system is taking a little bit of time to spawn all the spawn debris. We've been talking. This is still going at the moment. Obviously, there's going to have to be some optimization work there with the entity system.
This is kind of what we've got with PES is that it's not quite as quick to create entities as before we had PES. And we have all sorts of great stuff that comes with PES, so this is just a small limitation that we have to learn to work around. But it tells us that gameplay ideas that we had before PES might need some adaptation in order to work efficiently in the post-PES world.
So speaking,
what's that?
Shorthand, PES broke the game.
Yes.
Let's go back to the
as we knew it would, but
and it's always important to keep this in mind, is that like when you hear something like someone say, well, what's CIG's plan for X or Y? We talk about like server, like a
and this is a classic example of it, isn't it? Like their plan was this. When they brought in the new thing, they've realized, sorry, I know, you were going to say?
You're right. It was to say the same thing. It's like when people were asking, what's CIG going to do with the jump points, with the statement from here about the this and that, and we're like, CIG doesn't even know what's going on with the jump points, because they have a plan, but they haven't even gotten to the point where that plan can make sense, because they haven't even gotten jump points to function in the game yet. So
and what we're seeing with munching is exactly the same. But what they're showing with munching and what they're experiencing with the first implementation of munching. And chat was right. This is very rudimentary at the moment. It's very basic. It's not even stage 2 or stage 3. They're just going, okay, does it work? Yes. Okay, what are the problems that we're getting with this? How is it impacting the game? The load times for the bits and pieces at the moment is a big issue. And that's the same thing that we found. When PES came out, we were experiencing those major lag and major problems and crashes and all the rest of it. We'll have, this is going to have an impact on gameplay. Wormholes or jump points are going to have exactly the same impact on how things are developed and worked as well. You have your plan of where you think you're going to go, but when you bring in that new thing, it may change or impact how you thought things were going to go. And as they're saying with munching and salvage, what they're seeing and the way PES has impacted upon the game, they've got to change the way they were thinking the way the game would work, just because things have changed.
Yeah, and it's not the last one, and sometimes they may find out a solution to this problem, and they may already have a solution to this problem since this recording. It could take them a year to figure out the solution to this problem.
Yep.
They don't know these things until they're done. Example of this is like tractor beams. Once they started figuring out how to get tractor beams to work, suddenly tractor beams began to be easier for them to implement everywhere, and like because they solve a lot of the problems. So to the point where now we can just pull stuff off of ships and put them back on our other ships, and that kind of stuff is all was within 6 months of the everything else. And we're going to be getting the larger tractor beams out here, probably not 320, but probably before the end of the year, based off of their own performances or their own like stuff. So it just really matters, depends on the how long it takes them to do these sorts of things. So
Yep.
The
It's
video, I
frustrating,
think we're
and it is frustrating, and sometimes it makes us feel they're not going forward, and yet you've got to be aware that's the nature of development. That's the way it's going to go. And if we were watching, if this was a game that was being,
if this was Starfield,
if this was Starfield, this would be stuff that's the type of stuff they're doing in their development. We just don't see it.
yeah, the stuff that they may have done 6 months ago and they didn't know about, like we didn't know about how do you populate debris and an explosion, and where's the cargo to end up going through, and does that cargo get to stay there even though that ship flies away, and all of the problems that you would associate with other space games. A lot of this stuff is done behind the scenes. It's just because you're not paying attention to it as closely as you are with Star Citizen, you don't get that slowness feeling. So
we're about to get the entity spawns now. And he's saying this
Yeah,
has
they
been
should
playing
be
in the
here.
background while we've
Should
been
be here
talking.
any moment now.
There
Yes.
we go.
There we go. And a bit of a flicker as they come in, but they're finally here. So yeah, this tells us, well, in this worst case scenario,
Yay.
this performance is obviously unacceptable. We're going to have to do something about
But
this. So we
I
are
could see
thinking
that.
about how can we change our.
I could see with that. They broke the whole 890
890
into all of those little bits. Where I would have thought, because once it was broken into those parts, you'd have only been picking one of those parts to break into bits, not every single part to break into those bits. And to me, that would have seemed like that would have been the more logical way to go. You've got 6 big parts of the 890. Pick one of those big parts, break into bits, and
keep
do that.
breaking
And
it
that
down,
would have,
keep breaking down.
yeah, and I would have thought that would have made the load times a lot less, rather than every aspect of the 890 getting broken down into those munchable bits.
Yeah,
And
I think
I'm sure they'll go that line.
yes, I think this is a prototype, so I'm sure they're saying,
Yep.
all right, let's see what happens when we do this, because if
Yeah.
it was working the way they wanted to, it could have instantly done so, and they've been like, yes, this is good, kind of thing.
And also remember, yes, it took a long time, but this is also, he did jack up the server and make it lag as much as he could. So he's got this server running at minimum optimization. Like he's jacked it up as much as he can. He's loaded it with loads of crap, so it's sluggish. Think of the servers at the moment when you're sitting there going, oh, well, lifts are taking their time. The ASOP terminals are taking their time. That's what he's rigged the system at for this. So it's not, he's making it so it's not optimum.
He intentionally put it under heavy load, which is the part of the testing process. So all right, let's figure out. We've got this. CIG said they have the ability to stream out items depending on what items are, meaning the soda can won't last long compared to a ship. But the point was, what I was saying before was more like other games have have to tackle the same problem, and we don't see that discussion in other games. With Star Citizen, we get to see them talk about it, and why it seems like it's a slow development. It can take them a long time is just because it's under a microscope.
So another game developer may show you the process they went through after the fact, like after the game's out, and it's, this is part of the making of. Yes, this is part of the making of Star Citizen, but we're actually seeing this. Hey, this is what we're working on. This is a current.
You stop. We can't hear you for a moment, but your video's still running. So like I can see you stop talking. Now it sounds like you're miming, but there you go. Now you're back.
Do my mime. Yeah, I think I think it is part of that that aspect of just that game development. Other games might do it as this is the making of after the game's out, where we see this is the making of as we're doing it. And yeah, they've done that bit, but they're still solving the problems. They're still working through that issue. And I think that's the big thing we see with Star Citizen. We're seeing it as they do it, or very close to as they're doing it, as opposed to this is the problem we had way back when we were doing it. And yeah, I just think that's one of the beauties of Star Citizen. We're seeing the game be built as it goes, and yeah, it's a positive thing. So,
all right, let's finish watching this up.
Our approach, how can we optimize what we've got? Discussions in various different directions, but this is a key takeaway from this prototype, because if it had gone differently, if we tried this and the pieces turned up in just a few seconds or so, then we'd have known that this approach on the whole was probably acceptable, and with a little bit of optimization, it'd work. But that's not what happened. The stuff took minutes to arrive, and that means we have to do some more serious rethinking about how we're going to approach this.
The vision and the basically the acceptance criteria our directors define, they are still untouched, right? So those are still to be fulfilled, and even the overall vision that we as the team defined for how that gameplay should play out, those will be like, those are already set in stone because we all agreed on those. But how the actual gameplay then plays and feels, this is still affected by the prototype. A prototype like this is really perfect for stepping in early and making sure that every tick box on our acceptance criteria is met, and we can make a better gameplay out of it.
I think we all have a real desire and responsibility towards testing these things as often and as early and under as much duress as possible as we work to stabilize the PU and make it a more enjoyable experience going forward. So Torsten, Jacob, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
The claw.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that prototyping doesn't really look like much of anything, but it's an essential step towards proving out design and performance before all the artists and other devs go in to do their thing. That it's just as important to prove out good ideas and good paths to take as it is to encourage developers to seek out another way towards success. And that it's important to continue refining not just the features and content being made, but the very way that we test those things, earlier and earlier, and under a scale of duress. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thank you for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
So 15 minutes of that 20-minute show was waiting for the stuff to load.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that episode was seeing the game development process rather than munching per se.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've talked about munching in the monthly reports as the kind of prototyping it back and forth and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that was an interesting show. I think it was much more crunchier than most people will probably like, but it does show that they're working on it and that they understand the process. But this is just the very basics of like, how do we get this to work in the game?
So having said it's a bit crunchy, and some people were like, "Are you a smooth peanut butter or a crunchy peanut butter man?"
I am definitely a smooth peanut butter man. I do not like crunchy.
So I'm quite happy with crunchy peanut butter. So I didn't mind that crunchy episode.
I didn't mind that crunchy episode either. I just it's not my bag.
It's not your usual cup of tea. But
No.
yeah, and I think that's the type of thing I'd like to see in episodes, to be honest. Like, we get the monthly reports, they talk munching.
Mm-hmm.
Have an episode where they look at that feature that they're working on and show us, okay, this is what we're doing, this is the testing we're doing, this is what we're learning. This is what we think the problem is. I don't want it all the time, but seeing those types of things, I think gives that feel of behind the scenes, looking at what they're doing again.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I think had been missing for a while in those short videos we've been getting. So I'm quite happy with that episode, because it does feel like it's going back to the roots of showing us what's happening as they're doing it. A bit more. So
Dark Silver, thank you so much for that Twitch support, or that Twitch subscription. Thank you so much. So Paul's wrong. Listen. Smooth peanut butter is fine. I don't mind crunchy peanut butter, but if you're giving me a choice between smooth and crunchy peanut butter, I'm going to take smooth every day, because ugh. But I agree.
A whole conversation on peanut butter.
Well,
peanut butter be in the verse?
That's a good question. This is a good episode. I'm actually surprised they're doing game episodes, because usually, it's end of July. Start getting July and August. We're gonna get the infamous episodes. We're gonna get QA Part 75 again, because as always, QA deserves a lot of recognition. They deserve time to be on the spotlight, and they deserve to be shown off. But whenever a QA episode shows up, it's when CIG doesn't want to show anything else, and it's when the community is absolutely pissed. So for some reason, CIG is always like, we're going to do a QA episode in August. It's like, why?
Because it gives us low-hanging content that you can get out, and you can see some of the problems that our QA team are having. That you don't, because they've done the hard yards for you.
And if I was to give CIG any suggestions for that, what I would say is, if you're going to do another QA episode, show the path of QA from a bug, from them finding a bug, to them reporting the bug, to them testing the bug, and go back, that whole process. I know it's not exciting, but at the very least you can see the process of what they have to do. So
yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that, because that would show kind of a bug fixes, bug smashers type episode, but from the QA perspective. Okay, we've found this, we reported. Okay, they've fixed it. Okay, yep, all right, yeah, it's working here. It's showing up here, and that type of process. Would it be necessarily exciting? No. It would be more like, I think for me, that would be a smoothie peanut butter episode, as opposed to a crunchy. But you want to have that variety of things for different people. Like I said before, I didn't always like bug smashers, but it was good to watch occasionally, because it gave you that sense of understanding. But there were other people, game designers or people who were into that code, who devoured it and loved it and understood it. And there'll be, so you want to have things for everyone. So,
you want to read that one?
Some of our...
We got a super chat.
I'll scroll down to that a little bit. But I'm trying to keep the questions. So Voodoo had a question: do Australians go to school during summer? No, we have our summer break. So we have a very long Christmas break. I think it's 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah. We end up having.
Do you have trimesters, or do you have semesters?
We have semesters.
Okay.
So we've got, years ago it used to be trimesters, but now we've just got 2 semesters.
2 semesters.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent in the US of cutting our summer vacation down, because right now our summer vacation is 10 weeks, 9 to 10 weeks. Oh. Yeah. But the problem is, it's great for students and teachers. The problem is that it's so long that kids forget what it's like to be in school. Yeah. I think 4 to 6 weeks is the perfect amount of time where, like, teachers can go, I'm going to go on a vacation, and kids can have their time to do what they need to, but then, be able to come back. And
I find our students, when they come back, they're actually at the point where they're saying, I was looking forward to coming back. I was getting bored. And I know myself, by the end of the holidays, I'm often thinking, it's good to be back. I also get the idea that a 10-week summer break is an ideal time slot for a summer school block, because it gives you a term block.
Yep,
Whereas
it's about right. It's
the week
about
one
right.
is just it's a bit too short to do a summer school block. So there's always those the baby in the bathwater. If you toss out just go no, we're getting rid of that long break, you might lose something that's valuable. So you've always got to weigh up.
Yeah. But
those
at the same
pros and
time,
cons.
I'm also a proponent of extending, because our winter breaks are 2 weeks. So like our
Yep.
break between December and January is 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we have a spring break, which is like a week. So it's like all of our break is allocated in the summer, where if they spread it out and like
Yep.
put some of those weeks in December and November, some of those weeks in spring, that would make it a
Yep.
little bit easier for people to do stuff. But that's a different discussion.
Yep. It is. So Voodoo had that question. We do go to school during winter, but not in summer. But only the Reclaimer, and then SP says, I thought only the Reclaimer will have munching. No,
Nope.
the Vulture was always going to have munching. That's what those glowy things in the middle of the arms are.
There's a little hatch. If you look at the very
Yep.
bottom, right below the
cockpit.
the cockpit, you'll see a little hatch that opens. That's for the
For munched stuff to go.
Mhm.
So yeah. Luminarly says, I'm glad munching is being worked on, so are we. Jock Cop says, yeah, this is early. And yeah, no memes, no beams. So that's good. And Jock Crop also gives us that $4.99, £4 or £5 thing. And he says, great show, guys. Important question. Given the recent events, what comes first? The US government discloses real aliens, or we get them in game?
If you want to open this bottle up, I can go off. I can get my soapbox and just ready to go, because this is something that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about. Yeah, drink some champagne for this one.
Champagne, comment.
The reality is that all of that disclosure stuff was it's just hogwash. It's all political posturing, and it's nonsense. Because we also know that there was a behind the scenes closed classified documents, and quite frankly, the behind the scenes is probably the U.S. military being like, stop talking about this. These are top secret programs that we're working on, and it just makes it so much easier for us to work on them when the crazy people who dropped too much LSD in the 70s are saying that there are flying trapezoids that beam you to a different dimension. No one believes that, but they will believe that we have a top secret stealth spy plane that we can use to get into that can like pick up your farts from outer space. Like,
yeah, my thoughts is we'll see them in game before
in
we
game.
see them.
Yes. Thank you for getting the more succinct version there, Al.
Yeah, it's a rarity, guys. You saw it here first.
Go ahead.
I'm just going back to check chat to see if we didn't miss any questions. So yeah.
Yeah, these ones are going to be a little shorter. These ones with me and Al without X, because my show is in about 2 hours, so I need to end it.
We'll probably finish
in about an hour, I'd say.
Yeah, in about an hour's time.
Yeah. So it gives me some time.
We want to give Paul that bit of time to get food and readjust and have that bio break and say hi to his wife and do all those wonderful nice things that you do when you're not sitting in front of the camera.
Yes.
So.
From this point forward, question. From this point on, you can only use ships from one manufacturer. Which manufacturer do you choose? For me, easy. Drake. Easy Drake.
So what was the question, sorry?
If you could use only one manufacturer, ships from one manufacturer, what would you choose? What manufacturer would you choose?
I'm torn. RSI or Argo.
Oh.
Because I like the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been a Drake fan. They're too much like skydiving planes. If you've ever skydived, the way people say, "Oh, why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?"
Mm-hmm.
I did a combo jump, one of those tandem jumps, and I'm sitting in the airplane. My brother and I are doing it. I'm sitting in the airplane. I'm going, oh, cool. Oh, there's 12 of us in the plane. It's just like a stick from World War II. Oh, cool. Sitting on the edge of a plane, we're not getting buffeted because I'm doing all that stuff. But I look at the plane, and there's gaffer tape on the windows. There's gaffer tape here, and there's gaffer. It looked like the plane was being held together by gaffer tape. So why do you jump out of a perfectly good aeroplane? Because it's not a perfectly good aeroplane. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of that type of thing. Question, Parker. Any lore nerds know what monster that is on Jared's left?
I don't know.
Kind of monstery thing. Yeah,
It's
I
not a
didn't
Star
recognize it.
Citizen. I didn't recognize it. I don't think it's a Star Citizen creature. If it is, it's one that hasn't been discussed yet. But it's
That's right.
yeah.
It didn't look like a Star Citizen creature I'm aware of. It looked more like some creature from some other game. I did like the helmet. I did like the infection helmet with the skull rather than just the. So that whoever made that, kudos to you. Yeah, we did understand what you were talking about, Parker. Not the helmet, but the other critter, and neither of us know. Brian Curtis says has a question: is there or should there be a small, medium, large version of each profession ship? Yes. Example: Cuddy Red, Apollo, Endeavour, etc. It's always been the case. Do you guys think CIG want to pursue this general trend? Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no reason not to have, as long as they have different advantages and disadvantages. Like, you know, the Vulture is a good salvage ship, but it's
but as that episode showed, it's not a good munching ship. It's got munching, but it's not.
Yeah, and maybe there's an RSI ship that just does munching. It doesn't do any stripping, and so it has a larger cargo bay, and it's designed with 2 people involved. So, like, you have the choice of doing both, but having smaller cargo and requiring, you know, having to get out of your seat and move things around, or you get a dedicated second bed and second operator, but you have to lose some of the other options because you can get more space. So,
yeah, it's certainly one of the things that we've talked about many times on Inforunners in terms of, you know, the small, medium, large ships, or more small, medium, large capital ships in most professions. Hell, with repair, we've had disagreements on which you know, early on we had the disagreement which is the smallest
repair ship. And you're muted, by the way. You'll come back here in a moment. It's this new smooth and cool is great because I can see.
Yeah, I'll come back. The camera works.
Yeah,
but the audio. We're still getting the audio issue. We need a smooth and cool for audio.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, we had the same discussion. We've done it again. We had the same discussion in regards to repair. So the Vulcan was built as the first industry starter ship. So if you want to get into repair, we get the Vulcan and then the other ships. So X and I always took the view that is the first repair ship. Paul's view was always, but it's a medium ship, so there'll be something smaller. And we'd say yes, but, you know, and so we'd agree with each other, and yet there was always that but. And we've had multiple discussions on that over the years. I think we're now leaning that the way the game is developed now, there probably will be Paul's probably been vindicated in his no.
Vindication. Yeah. For those who don't know, my idea is that I think we're going to get smaller and smaller profession starters, which are minuscule, which will barely get you by and probably not even do very well. So because the Vulcan is a combo ship, but there might be a resupply ship, there might be a refueling ship, and there might be a repair ship, which are individual and smaller as a result to kind of get people in there.
And to go down that line, you know, one of the things we always talked about at that point was Viago MPUV.
Yeah.
One of the original concepts of Viago MPUV was a repair variant, which would be the smallest repair ship. So that kind of said, but Paul's view of that there being a smaller ship than the Vulcan was right. But CIG at the time was saying, well, this is a starter ship for that profession. If you want to get into a profession, this is the one to go to. You know, and so I suppose that's one where we were wrong and Paul was right. Yes, I'll even go that far.
um,
Paul's gonna, I'm gonna snip that. Yeah, that's gonna be a short.
my head is going to get so big after this.
Yeah, Paul's doing this now, scratching his ears. So I hope that kind of answers that question for you, Brian. Anyway, you were going to say, Paul?
It's just, I think in general we're going to see more ships in general, because CIG wants to make more ships because it makes them more money, and B, they want the more ships they have, the more diversification and the different variations of the gameplay you're going to have.
Yeah.
So
you won't just see Cutlasses with different skins. You'll see Cutlasses and Cutlass Reds and Cutlass Blacks and Apollos, and you want to see that variety of ships, because the more ships there are, the more it feels a lived in verse.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about how many cars there are in the universe, or in our world today, and the various. Just in one city alone, sometimes you can see cars from 7 different continents, and I can't remember how many continents there are. My brain is screwed up on that one. It's
lots. Just say lots. That'll do.
Lots. From like every continent on the planet except for Antarctica, and just one single city, from different manufacturers and different time periods. It's super common. And think about how many varieties of cars there are. There's trucks, SUVs, there's cars, there's hatchbacks, there's utes. Yeah, there's just so many different variants that the likelihood of you seeing the same car all the time is fairly small. Even in the same color is very small. So you want to have that experience in Star Citizen as well. The likelihood of you seeing the same Cutlass Black and the same skin should be pretty small. Like as the only ship in the verse.
Like if you think about the Zeus, the RSI Zeus, or the first ship, was really made for public consumption. That's like the Model T Ford. Way back when cars were first being made and mass produced, Model T Ford, every car, every car looked the same, and they were all black. But as time's developed, we've got that versatility and spread as well. So, and I think we'll see the same thing in. I think we are seeing the same thing in Star Citizen. So yeah. Tentacle Love says, I believe that critter is from Star Wars.
It might be.
And it could very well be. Waiting for a rep lawyer. Someone says, nice to have tools to chug it. Yeah, it was nice to see them doing that. I think they'll need to work out how they're breaking the parts up. And to me, it just seems, rather than breaking up the whole ship and all the ship's parts into those little pieces initially, you'd break up, one part of that section into those little pieces and chug it down. A bit like we do with the scraping at the moment. There might be 3 or 4 pieces to scrape. You scrape one piece and then you go to the next one. So, so I think that's where they go.
I'm just glad that they're giving us a little bit of gameplay as they're first coming back, because the problem is that, like, y'all who are new, prepare yourselves for the most filler episodes. We're getting clip shows, we're getting the beach episodes, we're getting the just missing episodes altogether, because we've got, it's October 20th, I guess, or something like that, 22nd. So we've got at least like 10 weeks or so between now and CitizenCon. These 10 weeks are going to be the most boring weeks for content you've ever experienced with Star Citizen. And you think July was bad. At least with July, it was like, well, we got nothing, so we didn't expect anything. Now you're going to be expecting stuff, and it's going to be like, let's see what the janitors at CIG are doing.
Well, the scary thing is when they bring out more lore episodes that debunk everything we've said in the past.
Yes.
Then we'll curse you. That'll be Dave Haddock going, I'll get you guys. I'll get you, my pretty. But yeah. Parker says, yes, fixing my bit rate seemed to fix things up. It has fixed the video, but we're still getting the audio problems. So
yeah.
Wonder if that's I wonder if we use the Ninja voice rather than Discord voice, whether that would have solved that as well. But that's
maybe.
That's postulating and thinking that something we'll have to experiment with down the track.
Death Factor asks, question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the Redeemer, and why is it a 10? Death Factor, are we in opposite land? Is this Bizarro Day? Sir,
They're just trying to troll you.
I know they
No, he's right. He's right. Because 1 is the best and 10 is the worst.
10 is the worst. Yes, that's exactly right. You did not specify which one is best and worst, so I agree. The Redeemer is the worst ship in the game, and it is rated a 10, with 1 being the best.
I think as a gameplay ship, the Redeemer is a good ship. It's a good ship because it's so heavily overgunned. The guns on it and the maneuverability on it and everything, it would make it a very good Drake ship, because Drake ships are overgunned.
Yeah.
It's a great ship. It's a nice ship to have if you've got a couple of people on, because the turrets aren't pew-pew guns. They're nice sized turrets, so you actually feel like you're doing something. Whereas you get in most turrets, you feel like, oh, pew, 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 and feel like you're, pea shooting someone.
Mm-hmm.
The Redeemer doesn't feel like that. And that's what makes it great. You don't feel that on the Hammerhead, but to really be effective in a Hammerhead, you need half a dozen people. Redeemer, you can do the same type of thing with 1 person, 1 person or 2 people in the ship. That makes it a great ship. But it's not my favorite ship either, because I don't like, I struggle with the fact that the engines don't fit the verse. So yeah. Scrolling down, finding another question.
I'm not seeing many questions at all. Someone saying, Paul, it's 5 o'clock, fight it. I am always tired. That's the secret of teachers. We never, we never sleep.
That's right.
I still get up at 6 o'clock in the morning because my school starts at 9. So I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go work out and get everything set up and then head off to school. So I get everything set up and I still work until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to doing school and or content stuff. That's just what I do. Even when I have the chance to sleep in, I don't.
Yeah, you get to the point where you just don't. You try not to. Death Factor does say well played.
Yeah, there we go. Be more specific in your trolling next time.
So that's how teachers deal with students who ask silly questions. Not that was a silly question. That was just attempting to troll your teacher. You're certainly not the teacher's pet.
No.
That's to go back to our title. See?
The title, yeah.
Nice segue. But yeah, so why would you rather have a hoplite to a Redeemer?
I can argue this. I can argue the hoplite to the Redeemer. The hoplite is a fighter. It has range. It's a heavy fighter. It has longer range. It has the ability to swap it out, so you don't have to have it be a hoplite. You can be something else if you want it to. And all of its parts are pretty capable with other. You can work with other vanguards and replace parts if you need to pretty easily, because they all have the same components and stuff like that. So it's easier to work in larger groups.
And I could see that being the case as well. So. So you've got the stealth version, or the e-warfare version, the torpedo version, the standard fighter, and the troop movement ship. It seems a well-rounded ship. I'm not necessarily sold on some of the aspects of the hoplite or the Vanguard series, but you need to have some things you like and some things you don't. The problem with the Redeemer is it almost feels like a once and done ship. And I know it is, as executors say, yes, but it's got modularity, and it was always indicated or hinted when CIG sold it that it had modularity. If you look at the Kickstarter goals, it is one of the ships that was, even when they were talking about it, was listed as being given as an example of a modular ship. So early on, it was always seen as being this modular ship, but it doesn't feel like. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like too standalone. So yeah. Death Factor has a question that's just popped up. They say, So they showed us a prototype of munching on ISC today. What do you think during this run of ISCs leading up to SitCon we will see? More phases of munching development? So do you think
No.
we'll see more development of that as it goes on?
No. Not before it gets actually finished. I don't think we're going to see another prototype phase.
Yeah, I think well, they might show us a prototype of some other feature. But I would imagine a more finished version of munching will be something we'll see at SitCon. If they're going to do something like that, it gives them a content. They can say, okay, we showed you the prototype of munching. Well, here's now the new version of munching we've got, and and what we did from where we moved from the problems we had or experienced. So, what about have we got anything new on Twitch or?
Yeah. Well, no, there's another question on YouTube.
There is another question on YouTube, but I don't have Twitch up, so.
Yeah, I'm looking at Twitch. There's no questions in this.
Brian Curtis has a question, and Luminalia said that's a great question. So I saw a weird vehicle landing added to the roadmap. Do we know any specifics about what that update contains?
Yes, we do.
It contains vehicle landing?
So back in April, I want to say, they did an entire ISC on it. Basically, right now, when you move forward, you go forward. There is no traction, there is no give, there is no and the change in the handling is that now when you're moving forward, it feels like your vehicle is actually moving through rather than just going, rather than like sliding forward effectively. It's now kind of moving forward as it's going. And
it is.
Go ahead.
One of the things I look forward to seeing is vehicles struggling on sand or soft soil to get their traction and move. It'd be nice to see if you go into a wrong area, your vehicle gets, bogged.
Yeah.
Doesn't get jammed on the rocks, but you've gone into this slow area. It's now, you're bogged. You've now got to get it out and get some rocks and shove them underneath to get the wheel out because you were stupid and went into an area you shouldn't have.
Yeah. So this is stage one of probably 1,000 that CIG is going to do to fix the handling of vehicles, because we've asked in the past, like, hey, is this part of this? Could this mean that they can do motorcycles now? Because I'm a big fan of the Ranger and I'm waiting for the Ranger to come out, and they said no, this has nothing to do with the Ranger. This is just more fixing the vehicles they have right now, and they have to do other things for the Ranger. So,
shucks. But I imagine it has a link in with the nav meshing for NPCs. So they have talked in the monthly report that NPCs can now get into vehicles and drive them around. And that has an impact on NPCs in outposts being able to chase you. Just imagine you're escaping from prison. You've got into the rover and you're making a run for it. And you think, yeah, we're free now. We're out of range of the guns. And then you get a trail of 3 or 4 bikes racing after you, NPC guards, now shooting at you as well. That just adds another layer of complexity. Bring it on. Any of those types of things are going to be great, at least in my thought. It's interesting that Prisoner 1000 just said hi all just when I said that. Luminalia says driving has no good physics to it yet. I want to feel the weight and a good
of a ground vehicle when driving. That's part of what this update is. That's part of what this update's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's nice when if you've got a heavy ground vehicle, and as I said, I saw them talk about that and even show that where you had the the vehicle not being stopped by a rock, it crunching the rock as it goes forward. If it's a vehicle that would do that. And that's the type of stuff you want. You don't want your the Ursa should not be stopped by a pebble.
No.
It should not be stopped by a weed. And yet sometimes you hit a weed and you blow up.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating slightly, but that's the type of thing you see. Def Factor comes back with a question. They say CIG posted a tweet showing a Star Wars Sandcrawler light tank. What Star Citizen manufacturer do you feel would be the type to do that? I believe that Sandcrawler tank was one they did on the Friday or the Tomorrow show where they just was concepting a tank from Origin, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, the Origin tank.
Yeah.
But
I would love to see. Go on.
I say if we're going to see something like a Sandcrawler, or like something that's like a giant slow-moving vehicle that's designed for salvage and like other things like on the ground, almost certainly Argo would be something like that, or the old standard Tumbril, because Tumbril is the ground manufacturer that barely gets anybody to talk about. So.
Yeah, I would like to see. I could see that Sandcrawler vehicle being the large land miner, or a large land mining vehicle, or as you just said, a salvage vehicle, which would be really a throwback to, or a tip of the hat to Star Wars. And like Chris Roberts grew up the same time I did. When Star Wars was the movie. It was I remember line out to see Star Wars and going to see it in the movies and being blown away as that those opening scenes of why people my age I think love space shows.
Yeah.
Or like the space games, So yeah, curse you, Lucas.
My dad talked about coming back from the original Star Wars and feeling it was completely different. Like the experience was completely unique. From everything, and he's a huge sci-fi fan, so he's just like, it's completely different. Not related to vehicles, but I want to use the mouse scroll wheel to set a throttle for vehicles to be spawnable in ships and vehicles to not explode in cargo holds, but we all want nice things. Well, here's the thing, and this is something that I think people need to realize. You won't ever have vehicles spawning in ships. Not the way you think. Because if CIG made it so that you could spawn vehicles in ships right now, that would have to go away. Because if your vehicle is in Stanton and your ship that's supposed to have that vehicle is in, say, Terra, it makes no sense that you could just plop that vehicle out of Stanton and into Terra. Or if you're in the middle of Pyro and now you want to spawn in a vehicle, to just have a spawn timer that sets, your vehicle explodes and you want a spawn timer to get it back. No, that doesn't work like that. It's not how the game's designed. So there's a lot of aspects where like you maybe loading in that vehicle into the ship, but that's going to be kind of like the cargo timers where it'll be loaded in separately.
You're loading it in like cargo. You're going to while your ship is loaded. You're in the hangar. You could go to your Moby app and you say, right, I'm loading that vehicle in as part of the equipment that ship has. A bit like you can play around with your your components and your guns. It'll be the same type of thing that's going on there. I don't think it's going to be, I'm just going to spawn my ship in there because I can. It's going to be a matter of attaching the equipment, and I think your equipment would have to be something that was at that location. A bit like you can't put the weapon on that ship if it's not available. That's one of the things I do like at the moment about the. If you've got a whole pile of ships, if you haven't spawned the ship, it's not available to you. You can summon it. You can have it so it's available at that location. But if it's not been pulled up out of your inventory of ships that are at that location, you actually can't draw on the assets that are part of that ship. Mm-hmm. That's a really nice thing. It sucks for people who enjoy doing that, but it's a beautiful aspect in terms of helping choose what ships are going where. It still gives you a horrible long list of ships if you've got lots of them, and the ASOP terminals still time out, but it is a step forward. So,
for some reason, chat in Twitch is talking about Charo.
Charo. churros. Yum.
I think she's a singer. I remember jokes about Charo coming in for like as a special musical guest on some shows and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know who that is.
So, and Brian Curtis comes back with his question. He says, "Oh, not that type of spawning. Like if my Ursa was in my personal hangar on Area 18, have it as a loadout on my constellation." Yeah, look, I think that is the type of thing they'll do. You'll be able to have it. You'll be able to set it as the equipment that goes. But then when you take out your constellation, your Ursa would be there. But then if you go to you go to Crusader, or and you land, your Ursa will now be at Crusader, not at Area 18. It'll be linked with your ship. And if you take it out of that ship at Crusader, that's where it'll be in the hangar at Crusader, not appearing elsewhere.
But we need like a lot of other things in the game before something like that can be added in. So the reason why CIG I think has stopped development on spawning vehicles and ships and loading vehicles and ships is because I don't think CIG knows how they want to do loadouts. To be quite honest, like I have a sneaking suspicion that the ASOP terminals we have right now to call up and spawn in ships, those will be gone in the near future.
Thank goodness.
I think they're going to try to move everything they can into the Mobiglass, and everything they can as well on the Mobiglass. They want to move. They can move off the Mobiglass. They'll move off the Mobiglass. So I think you'll probably see ASOP terminals end up being more of a Mobiglass app where you're calling up a ship that's in your local area to where you are, and then maybe a terminal for insurance that you have to file insurance separately and stuff like that. So
I do like them. I do like the terminals of being the way of you're going there, you're accessing, you're at the starport, you're actually basically saying, hey, I need my ship, and doing that type of thing. What I'd love to see as a change in the Mobiglass, not the Mobiglass, but the terminals, is at least ways you could break ships down into, say, company, or just something to help reduce those lists. Because I know, I've got a massive list, so I'm a sick person. But I imagine even you've got quite a long list for considering. Unless you've got 1 or 2 ships, the lists start to get long. 9 times out of 10, if I'm looking for a ship, it'll time out and kick me out of the terminal. I've got to go back in. Frustrating.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of having, like, if I have a ship and I spawn a ship in a place and I fly away and I go to like a station somewhere else, I should only see the ship that's in that station. I shouldn't see any of my other ships. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And if you've got ships that haven't been spawned yet, like they keep it alphabetical, but you should see the ships that are at that station. I think should be the ones that show up at the top, so you're not having to. Where is that ship that's at this station? But that's early days. That's the type of stuff I expect will come. It's just not there yet.
They got to tackle a lot of this stuff first.
So Death Factor comes back. They say, are there any known plans for larger vehicles like mobile land base similar to the elephant from Halo? Possible with tier 2 medbay?
No. Because CIG will always ask the question, how are we going to transport it? If you have something the size of an elephant, this huge thing, or maybe like a giant mobile base, how is that giant mobile base getting from point A to point B? How is it getting to that planet? There's going to have to be a ship that does that, and that ship is going to have to be able to land with that onto the ground, which the whole series is not going to be able to do. And CIG doesn't like making big ships because CIG knows how long it takes them to make big ships and how expensive it is for them to make big ships in terms of gameplay and other things. So sadly, I don't think we will have those things, though I personally am always a big fan of fleshing out more ground gameplay and stuff like that, specifically for, say, the UEE Army, because, the Army right now sucks in terms of its lore. Its lore is like, it's just a worse version of the Marines, and they don't do anything. So,
not the Marines don't do anything, but
the Army doesn't do anything.
Game Army doesn't do anything.
Yes, in UEE. I'm saying.
Just to clarify, just in case some people wanted to hunt you
I
down
mean,
to say no.
I'm sure their army members are like, yep, we don't do anything. We're just gonna sit here and do nothing. That's fine. Let the crayon eaters do the crazy shit. I'm okay with not dying.
So yeah, I'd like to see. Well, in a sense, we do have those large mobile bases. We've often said the Kraken is basically a mobile base. The Pioneer is basically a mobile base. Like it will build bases, but it is basically a mobile base. Any of those big ships effectively become mobile bases. But will we have land vehicles that do that themselves? I'd like to see them, and I'd like to see them as ship vehicles that were built at the planet. But then, if you want to move them, you've got to basically take them apart and to move them, because that whole transport problem becomes an issue. The second you make a big ship, you've then got to go, right, how did I get it there? Okay, so I now need to make a bigger Hercules variant that can take this ship. And it's the same question came up with the ballistas. John Cruise said, if we made a special cargo container for the Carrack, you could get a ballista in the cargo bay, but it would have to be a single one-off module to do that. And that was just giving a sense idea of what they could do. He wasn't saying they were going to do that, but a lot of people say, "Oh yes, they've said." No, they haven't said they're going to do that. They could.
Yeah.
They haven't said they are. So yeah. So let's see. They talk ship first filters. Agreed. That'd be nice. Yes, I'd love to have ship filters. Luminaria, you must have a large fleet. That's what I'll say. Be nice to tap into personal hangar cams. That'd be nice too. Check on your ship. What's going on at my ship? I've had an alarm. Oh crap.
Yeah.
They're trying to steal my ship.
I don't think anyone's going to be able to steal your ship from your hangar. I don't think CIG wants to go
No.
that immersive, just because that would be too much of having to worry about me sneaking into your hangar to steal your ship. Because if CIG gave me the option, I would. I'd figure out the first time someone forgets to lock their doors, I'm stealing your ship. For content. For content.
Yeah, I could see that. And people do it just because they can. Because that's what people do. Like, why climb mountains? Because we can. Why should I be evil? Because I can hide. Land a vehicle to service the Crucible Scarab. A land vehicle to service the Crucible Scarab. So that'd be something. I could see a land vehicle that could actually pick up the Scarab and move it around. Kind of a land-based Crucible, if you like. But yeah, they're now talking maybe even buildings, so I'm assuming that's still talking bases. Well, we know we're going to get buildings because the Pioneer can build them. Paying guards to guard your hangar. De facto like that.
Yeah. There's already there are already too many like money sinks. I think that's a little too much.
Yep. That's what NPCs are for.
Mm-hmm.
They don't let you in. And if you shoot the guard outside, then the station security blows you up or kills you because they've got the laser turrets or whatever set up. So yeah, I can't see them allowing you to raid someone's hangar too much. These and other things are questions we'll find the answer to later.
Yeah.
But not now.
We might wrap it up here, since the rule is if we have no questions, we no
questions. We go, and you're not up. So Luminaria says, I have a small fleet, but we're speaking on ship list filters from experience of in-game inventories. Yes.
In general. Yeah.
Yes.
It can be
Okay.
it can be a pain. So
It can be a pain. SRV might be able to move a Scarab. It's possible.
Yeah.
But it's not a vehicle.
You wouldn't be able to quantum with it, really. So
Yeah.
I get the idea of maybe breaking it down into pieces and shipping it to a place and then building it on site, which would require like a some sort of
A
building
pioneer.
mechanic, which we don't have yet. So
Yeah. And why isn't the Pioneer? Why don't we hear much more about the Pioneer? Why? And I think X's idea of the Pioneer not being sold or not being able to be CCU'd is because they haven't worked out what they want to do with that Pioneer.
mm-hmm.
And if we don't sell any more of it, and we can change it and modify it, but the second we start saying what it is, and we start making people able to get it, then we're kind of locking ourselves in, and I think they've learned their lesson on a lot of things. So. If you'd like, end it early. Well, thank you, Parker. Our rule has always been, you ask questions, we answer them. You don't ask questions, we go.
Yeah.
So
ask questions. Because we're going to be wrapping up here in about 30 minutes. So Shinobi asks, question, do you think Argo or Misk would make a medium salvage ship? What do you think, Al?
I could see Argo doing a salvage ship. Misk heavy industry. That I don't. When I've looked at Misk in the past, I haven't thought it would fit them. But when you look at what Misk are, they're a bit like Mitsubishi, and you see Mitsubishi have everything. So I could see them doing that. Argo definitely. What about yourself?
I'm always a big fan of Argo. Argo needs more because Argo supremacy, but I could see Misk doing it. If I was going to say which one would be more likely, I would say probably Argo, because Argo is not a logistics. It's a infrastructure ship, whereas Misk's company, whereas Misk is more of a logistics company, a company that deals with like large kind of things. Though I can still see Misk doing a salvage ship, especially since Project Cold Boot exists, and we haven't seen. We know it's still around. And for those who don't know, Project Cold Boot is what gave us the Prospector. It's basically it was basically an R&D project to say, we have a Freelancer. What can we turn the Freelancer into? And so they used base Freelancers to see if they could make some variants of the Freelancer that weren't just the Max and the Miss and stuff like that, but like unique off the wall ideas. And they came up with the Prospector, which was called the mining ship, and then they eventually it became its own ship rather than a variant. But so
does the Misk do the Expanse as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So isn't the Expanse also out of Cold Boot because it's using almost the same type of kind of picking up the same type of hull pieces, but changing the interior and stretching and that I could be going beyond.
Yeah, it feels like an evolution on the Endeavor is with the we're talking about the Expanse, right?
Yeah, that's
the I'm thinking of something else. The Expanse is the refinery ship, yeah, and that's kind of like an Argo thing, but
yeah. I actually, as you were talking, I was thinking Argo would be really good for repair because they've station infrastructure. So I could see them being really heavily into repairing bases, repairing beaches on the land, but maybe not doing salvage. If they're doing salvage, it's because they're taking the damaged bits of the station and munching them to repair rather than going out and finding a wreck and bringing it back. But whereas I could see Misk doing, we'll have something that can do repair, we'll have something that can do, because they're broader. They've got that broader industry base, whereas Argo have that really specific focus. So Misk salvage. So Luminalia says Misk salvage ship? Question. Salvage module for my Endeavour? Yes, please. I wouldn't be surprised if we see modules for a lot more modules for the Endeavour. Like when they created the Endeavour, and we got all those modules we had, cargo module, fuel pod, first aid, hospital, farms, super collider, so we could overclock modules. So I could see, crew quarters, computers, different types of computers. So you could see they were trying to give everything, almost everything that you could think of as modules. So if any new modules come, I could see them adding those into the mix down the track.
Yeah, I can see that.
Old Man Zin sneaking in a question there.
Yeah.
Old Man Zin says, question, it might have been a dream, but did CIG say something about being able to tie up to arrest NPCs in one of their episodes? Yes, they did.
They did. And Squad 42 monthly report, the last Squad 42 monthly
Yep.
report, they specifically talked about the animations and the possibility and how to deal with restraining
And
NPCs.
also having NPCs who are restrained and unconscious and being woken up while restrained. So all of that, restraining characters are awake, restraining characters are unconscious, it's a lock, stock, and barrel. So yes, they have. So expect that in PU at some point.
On Twitch, M. Walker asks, do you think ships with hangars will eventually be able to refuel and restock ships in their hangars? Yes, some of them will. We've actually seen some of that already. Like the Carrack has supposedly hoses that you can attach to refill the hydrogen, possibly even the quantanium of the for Pisces. So
I
some of
believe
the
the
ships
890s also got that, supposed to have that capability.
What's the one? Not the Expanse. The one that's
The Odyssey.
The Odyssey is supposed to have something like that too. So
The Odyssey was specifically said to only have hand refueling and repair. And the same with the Liberator. The Liberator was also said to be in the same boat. So they seem to be that seemed to be a differentiation of what was normally seen. What that actually means for hand? Does it mean we're grabbing a hose and taking it over and plugging it in, or is there? And is it automated? Does it automatically drop the hose down and fill it in? That's the type of stuff we don't know.
Yeah.
And if anyone tells you they know, I think they're lying.
Yes.
So.
We got one more question on YouTube, and I know we got another question on Twitch. From
because we threaten them.
Yes.
We threaten them.
Stephanie asks, question, what manufacturer and profession do you think the next capital concept ship should be? I know this answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Let's see.
My answer for that.
I think it's is it Anvil?
Mm-hmm.
The capital Anvil ship, which has for ages been talked about being built at the shipyards.
Yes. Al and I
I think we converted X.
Yes. There's for several years. For several years, there's been an announcement at Invictus where they said that they've been invited Anvil engineers to the main shipyards on MacArthur.
Killian?
Yeah,
no,
it was
Killian's
Killian.
Star Wars, isn't it?
No, it's Killian's right. It's Killian, but it's where MacArthur is.
Yeah, MacArthur base.
Planet is MacArthur. It's in MacArthur shipyards to talk about the next generation of starship technology. And for those who don't know, that's where the Retribution was built. That's where the Bengals are built and were first developed. It's where the Carrack was built and developed. So you don't go to like MacArthur to test out a new fighter. These things got to be big. So
and it's where you do your secret building. Like the Carrack is not necessarily a big ship, but it was a secret build.
Yeah,
it was built to cover up a botch up.
It just showed up on the space docks of MacArthur. Everyone's like, "What the fuck is this?" So,
to quote to do a Galactic Gears type things. We did a thing.
Yeah. But I can go even further. I think it's going to be a Corvette. I think it's going to be the ballistic version of the Polaris. Whereas the Polaris is a missile boat, I think you're going to have more of a slug thrower, something that's going to replace something like the Perseus, but bigger.
And I could see that. It was when the Perseus first came out. I actually raised the question whether the Polaris was actually the modern version of a Perseus, because the Polaris is built for as a flagship of local defense. The Perseus was kind of that local defense ship, and so it's almost old ship, new ship. What do we need? How do we fix it? It's kind of it's a replacement ship. But when you look at the class, it's a different class, and so it's almost like they started building it as that replacement ship, but as they added the stuff they want, it's too big. I reckon
if you think about the Polaris, as like parts of the Idris. The parts you're missing from the Idris from the Polaris is the railgun and the bigger guns. It only has the size 7s, I want to say.
Yeah, and the bigger hanger.
The bigger hanger. But it's got a hanger on it, right? So what I'm thinking is that Anvil will produce a Corvette that is the complementary twin to that, where it is designed with big guns, no hanger, but designed to slug above its class. So fighting frigates and destroyers and such. But cost less and have less crew, like only have a crew of 10 or so compared to the Idris, which was like 80 to 100 people. Because that's the whole kind of spiel of the UEE right now is less crew, same firepower. And what CIG's design elements have also been, we want combat ships, but we want large combat ships. Those large combat ships have to be between 2 and 10 people because that's the sweet spot. So
because they've realised that's what people will do. Like the Javelin is a great ship, but I doubt we'll see too many of those being used properly crewed because they need, a lot more crew. And that's just the way that's going to be. But I think a Corvette, another Corvette would be good. And I could see somewhere down the track a third Corvette. So they always seem to do things in threes. They've got one that goes, really offensive, one that's really defensive, and then one that's in between. And so the question is, you've got your Polaris. I think the Polaris is the only ship in its class at that level, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no Corvettes. So I think you could argue. I think that the Odyssey is that same class because of the hangar size. Yeah, but the Odyssey's not a combat ship.
But it's not a combat ship.
Yeah.
So if you're talking combat ships, you tend to go offensive, defensive, and in between. We've got, I think the Polaris is an attack sub basically. It's your killer. So what's your defender and what's in between? And we don't have those. So
yeah. We need something that's basically the shield for the Polaris, where it draws the attention of the Polaris. And I think, and the other thing is that this is me with my lore brain going. For those of you who don't know, the predecessor to Anvil, Case Aerospace, right after they built the Hurricane. And right after the Hurricane, or right after the Second Tavaran War, the Mezer II asked Case to build a Corvette, which was originally supposed to be the Idris, but the Idris ballooned in size because of internal changes. But they still needed a Corvette to be able to patrol. They wanted something that's low crew that can patrol an area and keep it safe, that wasn't too expensive for them to build. And so they asked Case to do that for them, and they started doing that, but then Leonard Case died, the designer, and so they lost that contract. But J. Harris Arnold, the guy who founded Anvil, who's a big fan of Case, ended up buying all of the patents for Case's stuff, which would include that unmade Corvette from the Second Tavaran War.
So the patents and copyrights, he gazumped. I'm sure he gazumped the Asperia boys, who would have been after those blueprints. That blueprint, So
it would be funny because he almost got sued. He almost got sued, and right now that's supposed to be some sort of holding company. It would be funny if CIG retconned it so that Asperia had all of those blueprints, and we're going to sue Arnold for doing it. And so Arnold just said, "Shut up, boys. Here's some money. give me the patents."
I can see it because they had made.
They're both from Terra.
They're both from Terra, but the Asperia boys, their goal was to archive all the ship designs, all the blueprints of every ship that's been made. And so you could see them actually hunting them down and going through those channels to get them and buying the copyrights or whatever. And then someone else coming along buying the intellectual copyright of that thing afterwards. And you've got this whole legal issue problems going on. So yeah, I could see all of those things going on. So let's see. Question: favorite pizza toppings? Whatever. Anything without pineapple.
I'm good with everything
Pineapple.
but fish. I'm never a big fan of fish or seafood on my pizza. Like I'll go with pretty much anything. My favorite is just pepperoni, just standard.
Yep.
If you give me cheese and pepperoni on it, I'll be fine.
I hate Hawaiian pizzas.
Mhm.
For those not, I remember, Hawaiian pizza for an Australian, basically, ham and pineapple. I hate pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple on a hamburger. Pineapple and beetroot on a hamburger. You haven't enjoyed a hamburger until it's got those things on it. It is. Went to the States once, mate, with friends. We were going to a hamburger shop, and they said, "Oh, we'll get a hamburger." I said, "What do you want?" I said, "A hamburger with a lot." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, egg, bacon, cheese,
Oh yeah.
lettuce, tomato, beetroot. And I just listed everything we put on a hamburger. And they go,
Those exist.
"Oh,
I think they're called bistro burgers here or something like that. Like because in America, there's when I was in college, our college had a burger that had fried egg, onion ring. I didn't use.
So we wouldn't put onion ring, but we would put fried onion.
Yeah.
So fried onion, egg,
Yeah.
bacon, cheese, ham,
Yeah, all of those.
beef patty. So yeah. All right, let's see if we can get through these last few questions, because believe it or not, our viewers are actually increasing in the last half hour.
Suddenly, people are talking about it, asking questions. By the way, Unknown Guardian, thank you for that 100 biddies or 1,000 biddies there. So.
Ooh, asking questions. Awesome. Looks like the whole sea is in a card apparently from someone
Yeah.
breaking doing naughty
Breaking their NDA.
things. I hope you're only reporting on something you've heard. Someone's broken an NDA somewhere. Let's see. Question from Shocker 17 says, with the loading of the whole sea by using ATC, do you still think the raft has value? If so, do you think it still unload a whole sea in the future? I think given the way CIG have talked about loading times, ships that can help, that you can actually put stuff on, which means you'd reduce the amount of space to load stuff, would reduce loading times. So will they still go down that line? I don't know, but I don't see why they couldn't. What about you, Paul?
Yeah.
Is the SRV still valuable, or the what was the ship?
The raft.
The raft still valuable?
Yeah, I mean,
the load and offload ship.
The raft has always been a weird ship because the purpose of the raft is that it's its own crane. Because you can load and unload yourself. You don't require like someone else with a tractor beam to do it. The problem is that it doesn't matter until that system is in game, and we're not going to see that system in game at least until 3.21 or 4.0, one of the two. So
Be more that the raft is more a ship not for loading the whole sea,
but
for actually flying down to a planet like Terra, picking up the cargo crates and taking them up to the space station to, being which would kind of to me fit with Argo's bottleneck situation of solving the bottlenecks. The bottleneck of getting the cargo up, we'll build our own ship. We'll just take the stuff up ourselves. That's, I think, more in line with how the Argo raft would be used, rather than going from station to a hull sea or otherwise. Could you use it for that? Yeah, but where I think they're going, I don't think so. Next question from Ray Louderbuck says, whole Freelancer Max with jumpsuits is better dropship than a Cutlass Steel? Anything is better than a Cutlass Steel. A Redeemer. I'm sure Paul would even agree with this. A Redeemer is better than a Cutlass Steel.
No, the Cutlass Steel is brilliant and wonderful, and it's garbage, but it's my garbage. It's this.
Okay, so Paul loves Cutlass Steel.
I love the Cutlass Steel. I love the Cutlass Steel for all of the reasons why it's bad. Because it's the most Drake ship ever. Hey, people really like drop ships. Let's just take a Cutlass and turn it into a drop ship. Did we add any value to it? No. Did we make it worse? Yes. But can we put legally distinct Fortunate Son over a trailer while people are shooting miniguns off the side? Yes.
I
People
suppose
will buy
that
it.
view would have been. Well, I don't think they've asked that last question. It would have been, can we do that? Yes, yes, yes. Can we sell it? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hate Bastille. No one will ever. It is the worst. It is an abomination. It's disgusting. It is horrible.
Its price is unconscionable. The price that you have to pay for it is unconscionable.
The
Buy
cash
it in
price
game.
to pay for it is get it in. If you want it, get it in game. Like I hate it for the price.
Yeah.
Hate it for what it, but I also hate the ship for what it is. It's a disgusting ship.
Yeah, but at least it's designed to be disgusting. Like that ship is its core is disgusting. It's Drake.
It is. It is. And at its core, it is one of those ships where there has to be something in the game that you like and something in the game you hate. And for me, that is just that thing in game that I hate. It is the one ship I've avoided buying. I've avoided upgrading to packs that have actually got in. It's disgusting. My feelings for the Steeler, I think, are equivalent to Paul's feelings for the Redeemer. It's that bad. But yeah. Marek has a question. Do you think that the ropes tech also includes hoses tech, which are hollow ropes? Well, you know the way they've been talking rope tech.
Yeah.
In the monthly reports. So Marek is asking, well, do you think that also includes hose tech, because hoses are really just hollow ropes? Yeah,
Sure. Yeah,
makes sense.
I'll say that I'm like 99.9% sure that rope tech is for Squadron. It'll eventually come to Star Citizen. They'll probably find some ways for it, but it's designed for rope puzzles for Squadron. That's what it is. So
rope puzzles, or I could see it being, but how those meshes work, applying for restraints. I could see it working for hoses. I could, you when you build something in game, you don't want that technology just to be for one thing. The concertinaing of a hull C, which they solved the problem for docking collars on stations. It solved. It helped solve the issue with docking the P50 to the P52 and the P72 to the Constellation. They went, oh, that's how we do it. It helped solve them solve the issue with refueling. Oh, that's just hooking a ship up to the refuel point. That's just the same as a P52 dock. So you want to use that tech as much as you can because it reduces your workload. Like,
yeah. We have two more questions. I think we're done because we've got one more question on YouTube, and I'll ask the question that's on Twitch, which is from Dark Silver, who asks, "Isn't the Terrapin supposed to have a dropship variant?" Yes and no. Yeah. In the same way that the MPUV is supposed to have a salvage repair variant and a medical variant, the Terrapin is supposed to also have a medical variant and a dropship variant, but neither of them have showed up yet. So
So in lore, there is a search and rescue version of the Terrapin, and in lore, the Marines like the Terrapin. It's crunched, it's tight, it's a tight fit, but they like it for their missions.
Yeah, and Marines are like special operations, so you might not actually have a dropship variant. It might just be 5 Marines laying down on the ground for a trip. But
I could see it more being just jump seats being put in.
Yeah.
But they like it because it serves their needs and serves their needs well.
Yeah, it's as small as a Gladius, and it's somewhat stealthy and has a lot of range. So
and they can close it up, and once it's closed up, it doesn't give off a heat signature for a while. So you might cook inside, but you're not. Your signatures just drop.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's lots of, but the Marines apparently like that. What new professions would you like to see in the verse?
Cook, like someone who does cooking. And I know that sounds weird, but if you people will will be cooks in the verse. If you give
If
someone the chance to be a chef, they will Neelix all over it. So,
and if you look at the 890 jump, the 890 jump has a massive kitchen.
mhm.
Like, not only does it have a massive kitchen and service area, it's got massive fridges and storage area for your food. Yet at the moment, it's just nothing. So yeah, I could see cooks. I could see you've got bars. We've got NPC barmen. I'm sure we'll have the ability to mix drinks down the track. Paul says yes.
Yes. Even if it's just the mix master, give me multiple mix masters. I'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, we need to work out how to mix Evercrack in game, because Evercrack is a drink.
Yes.
We have worked out that Evercrack is a drink. The drug that Old Man Hurston and his barkeep Paulie sell is a drink. It gets mixed.
Yes.
We don't cook, we mix. Let's mix. Then we've got a question from Defactor. Is there any mention of seed vaults? Some sort of place, UE library planet mentioned in lore. I think that is basically the
Ark.
The Ark library, built after the kind of linked to the, if I recall correctly, the Fair Chance Act after the butchering of a planet and killing everything. The idea was, oh no, we've got to show how good we are. So they basically made the Ark and everything a repository of knowledge for everyone to be able to access if they so desire. And I think that's kind of got that. You'd have that link to that, but I don't know of any other. I don't know of actually specified places where seeds would be stored in case of an emergency to be able to populate planets down the track or solve those issues. Are you aware of any specifics?
No, I'm not here. I don't have any idea about that.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, and then we're gonna kind of wrap it up. But feel free to ask one more question.
Yep. Who's winning the ship showdown this year? The X1? Probably not an X1. I have no idea who's winning showdown this year. I did understand that they did want to change the way they were doing showdown. And so I have a feeling that they might be looking at doing a vehicle class and, have different classes of ship. And so it's not just the best ship, it's the best in class, the best in class, the best in class. So I think that's where we'll go with that. But your guess is as good as mine. Missiles are falling bombs. Yes and no. Missiles are flying bombs. Is more accurate. Any predictions for big announcements at CitizenCon?
What was the last question?
Any predictions for big announcements at CitizenCon?
It's a good one to end on. My theory, my prediction has been and will continue to be that they will announce Squadron 42's release date. That's it. They'll announce a new release date for Squadron 42. I don't know if it's going to be true, but I've been seeing my tinfoil hat has been protecting me from the mind readings of CIG's secret space alien cabals. So, but there's a lot of signs on the road.
There's a lot of signs that are indicating that they are really nearing the end of it, or they think they've broken the back and they've got it sorted, and it's just polishing and just heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff. It just seems to be saying that.
At the very least, they will announce that they have entered beta internally or something like that.
Yeah.
If they feel uncomfortable talking about it yet, like a release date yet.
Yeah, I think I could see that being, rather than a specific date.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them saying internally we've entered beta. I could see them doing that, because that would be saying we've actually moved. We've actually, the bar has been moved. We're really, really close.
Mm-hmm. And
the second you say we're in beta, everyone knows, right? We're about a year away or 6 months away or whatever.
We're in the end game now.
Yeah. But it means I don't have to give a date.
Yeah.
And I could see them doing that rather than saying a date, because
they may not know exactly when the date is, and they may be gun shy about that whole thing. So, you know.
Yep. Because once bitten, twice shy type thing.
Yep.
So I could see that. But yeah.
Um,
And on that note,
yeah.
I think that's it. Unless you've got a last question in Twitch.
Not that I can see. I'm just trying to set up the last little bit here. Let me go back into my editing mode. Switch account. Nope, that's not what I wanted. All right, I'm setting it up so it'll drop me right into it. Go ahead.
And I'll remind you guys to don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell. You can always go those extra miles and do super chats and other stuff, but you don't need to. The best way to help any streamer is like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We would love you to do that. I know from our analytics, we've got about 50% of you who watch our show don't subscribe. So the question is why?
Why?
You keep coming back. So
Yeah.
why not subscribe?
You should be subscribing. If you're watching this every day, you know, it's nice. Thank you for watching it, but
yeah,
just hit the subscribe
we
button.
love that you watch us. It's shucks, golly gosh, gee whiz, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Let me try to set this up so it has a redirect. All right, I'm adding the redirect.
Okay, and on that note, that's been AstroPub. I've been Algared, and we're going to be saying goodbye to Twitch anytime now.
Hold on.
So
Hold
bye,
on.
Twitch.
Hold on.
I'm just saying, we're getting ready to say bye, Twitch.
Yes.
And if you're redirecting them anywhere, they'll be appearing wherever Paul's redirected you. I imagine it's going to be to the AstroPub.
Yes, which
within
I'll
the
start in
next
about an
half
hour
or so. Paul will be there. So
thank you all. See
go
you
out there,
later.
listen to his music and all that. And YouTube, thanks for hanging out. And maybe we'll see you next week. We're not sure. But take care, be well, and look after each other.